back in the city. It's time, ain't no turning back. Rewind, it's all or nothing, put it all on the line. I see it, I want it, I take it, it's mine. It's a Super Bowl. Who you got, who you rooting for? You with them or with us, yeah, we toe to toe. Look and see them, they shoot, man, they losing hope. Sin City, but I got with me, yeah, the pressure on, still calm in me. All the blood, sweat, tears hard on me, but the highs and lows making harm in me. Hold up, whoa, y'all are not hearing me, whoa. It ain't no fear in me, I hear them cheer. 60,000 in the stands, 100 million tuned in. It don't get any bigger than this. It don't get any bigger. It don't get any bigger than this. Touchdown, do my dance, roll. 60,000 in the stands, roll. It don't get any bigger than this. Couple ends with the NIL, you can tell my opponent I wish him well. I'm a big deal with it, can't you tell? Got him maxed out in the NFL. Couple rings and mementos. Whole team keep it 10 toes. Got my head high at the same time. Keep my head down, gotta stay low. Sin City, but I got with me. Yeah, the pressure on, still calm in me. All the blood, sweat, tears hard on me, but the highs and lows making harm in me. Hold up, whoa, y'all are not hearing me. Whoa, it ain't no fear in me. I hear them cheer. 60,000 in the stands, 100 million tuned in. It don't get any bigger than this.
Times they come around, can't let them bring you down, 'cause you're either living life or letting it pass by.
Racing isn't just a game, it's a way of life. Every lap, every moment. Practice is about consistency. Winning doesn't come easy.
Yo!
My turn, Bubba.
Dude.
Fuel the road. Own the race. Logitech G wheels and pedals available now on Amazon.
Tonight on Countdown to Green, we look back at the first week of the Old Dominion Classic. The crew prepares you for the semifinals and final round. And we've got wheels to give away with Logitech G. All of that and more coming up on Countdown to Green.
Good evening, race fans, and welcome to iRacing Countdown to Green, presented by Logitech G for week 2 of the Old Dominion Classic for the eNASCAR College iRacing Series, powered by the Play vs. College League, live from the virtual Martinsville Speedway in Ridgeway, Virginia. I am James Pike, he is Evan Pisoko, and we are here to bring you all the action from what will be the conclusion of the 5th tournament of 6 in this 2025-26 eNASCAR College iRacing Series season. Evan, I know it might not be the Coke Series, but it's still eNASCAR, so yes, maybe a little bit new to this, but you've been watching, you've been taking notes, much like a lot of these drivers, and I have a feeling you're pretty well prepared and probably have some good insights and things that we should be looking forward to this evening.
Yeah, I mean, this was a big storyline when we first saw this schedule announced, right? Way before the fall semester was Martinsville is back in an eNASCAR sanctioned capacity, right? How is that going to race? I think we got a little bit of what we were expecting, right? Week number 1 through the tournament bracket, some chaos, but I think the smaller fields that this series presents gave us some pretty good racing. We saw passing for the race win in week 1 on the outside in Martinsville, right? That wasn't possible last time we raced here nearly a decade ago. So it's been fun to follow along. It's a consequential time of the year, so this should be a fun end to tournament number 5.
We're going to find out a lot about who's going to be eligible for the championship going into the final week as well. We'll see how it shakes out. But before we get there, Evan, let's talk about not just what you can do on iRacing, but what you can do on consoles of NASCAR 25.
You've been talking about it. It's available now. It's been out for a while. And again, the initial reaction from everybody on social media was everybody was so excited to get a dedicated NASCAR title back. And this is a game that has replayability. It's got what you expect out of a product from iRacing Studios, right? It's got the laser scans of over 30-something NASCAR track, but it's the detailed driver ratings for over 200 drivers. It's the career mode that takes you through the NASCAR ranks from ARCA to the Cup Series and the multiplayer. It's all of those different elements that make NASCAR 25 such a fun experience. And if for some reason you haven't got in on the action yet, it's never too late. You can get it for your preferred platform, a Steam PlayStation, or Xbox. Of course, NASCAR 25 to learn more information. But it's been a lot of fun seeing the community reaction and building a community around that game.
It's been neat to see that develop since its release in October. Also, for those of you that love a slightly different take on the iRacing experience, iRacing Arcade is available now on Steam and coming to consoles later this summer. So much fun that you can have using real-world licensed cars and tracks. You'll find the GTPs from the INSO WeatherTech Sports Car Championship, Porsche's 911 GT3 Cup cars, FIA Formula 4 racing on tracks like Barber Motorsports Park, where IndyCar is going to be this weekend, or Imola, or Mexico City, or Miami. Plenty of places that you could go to. There's a fully fleshed career mode where you get to build your own little racing empire from the ground up. You build shops, you build all sorts of campus buildings that make it good. And then there's also all kinds of online multiplayer as well. And then, Evan, there's the matter of Sebring.
Yeah, I mean, we know this iRacing special events calendar is a lot of fun, right? I mean, it gives you such a selection of some of the world's most compelling races across numerous disciplines, and I don't know if it gets more iconic than the Sebring 12-hour. A 12-hour endurance ring at the Sebring International Raceway in Sebring, Florida. Second round of the IMSA Michelin Endurance Cup and the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship. It is going to be a lot of fun. You got several opportunities to race in the GTP, the LMP2s, the GT3 cars this weekend. If you're not on track, or if maybe it's just not your stint, feel free to tune in with us. Starts nice and early, 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time on Saturday, right here on the iRacing Esports Network.
You'll have plenty of opportunities to go visit iRacing's YouTube and Twitch channels to pay attention to Sebring. A reminder, as we roll into this evening's proceedings, the drivers who have attempted at least one time attack throughout this College Series season will automatically be entered for a chance to win a prize pack, including a Logitech G923 True Force racing wheel and pedal set for the Xbox or PlayStation, as well as iRacing credits and a custom-designed eNASCAR College iRacing Series t-shirt. For more information on that, you can scan the QR code on the lower right-hand portion of your screen or head to pcl.tg/pages/eNASCAR if you so choose. Some of these drivers taking some final opportunities to practice and get a sense of what the conditions are going to be like now that they are in the actual session, that they will be contesting the finale of the Old Dominion Classic. You get a look at one of the many UNC Charlotte drivers here, and Evan, all of a sudden, we're down to the business end of the schedule. Not much left to go in this season.
Yeah, you alluded to it off at the top. For the first time since we started back on September 17th with the Queen City Crown, we're going to be talking about at the end of tonight a concrete list of drivers who will be mathematically in contention still for the championship. It is really getting down to crunch time. And the end of that spring semester, or the fall semester, I should say, Connor Yurchak was dominant, right? With the win at the Clash on the Beach, the Harvest Cup at Iowa. But Daniel Falkenham bounced back. He took the feature win in the Great Lakes Gauntlet at Michigan. Who does it here tonight at the Martinsville Speedway? It will set us up for what will likely be the championship deciding race at Homestead Miami Speedway. Of course, week 1 for the Sunset Splash coming up on April 15th. April 22nd is when we will likely crown a champion, unless things get really weird in the points here tonight. But still 30-something drivers eligible for the championship.
There is a possibility that we crown a champion this evening, but the likely scenario is that we're going to Homestead Miami to find that out. This is Nelsonia, Virginia's Aaron Brown out of Eastern Shore Community College, and just seen him put down a few laps, and also maybe making sure he gets some hot dogs in his system before he gets going. Maybe, I guess, inspired a little bit by our locale. Martinsville is famous for the hot dogs, and as someone who has had the opportunity to take a few of those, they're pretty tasty.
Hey, but is it a Martinsville dog? That's what I want to know. I want to know how those hot dogs are dressed. So we will wait for an update on that one. Of course, you look at this format, right? I mean, we had to get through the top 120 drivers who raced in week number 1 of this event in order to get to this point. We've seen over 315 schools that have registered, but it doesn't matter where you finish in week 1. You just got to get to week 2, James. And now that we have made it here to week number 2, now we can start talking about points and championship implications now that the hurdle of week number 1 has come and gone.
The top 13 drivers from each of our 3 groups have advanced into this final session and into this final setup. They will requalify. They will run semifinals. They will run a last chance qualifier. And at the end of it all, 25 drivers will compete for the right to claim the Old Dominion Classic. So that's a format, a bracket. These are highlights, and we had some very entertaining racing in week 1 when we whittled it down from 120 to 39. It wouldn't be Martinsville without a few beating and bumping and banging type moments, but we saw at the end of Group 1, how about this battle with Logan Clampett and Dylan Alt to round out the second round race of Group 1. Quite a battle at the line.
It was, and it was a well-deserved win for Logan Clampett, a 2-time champion of the eNASCAR College iRacing Series, including the most recent season. And again, that was week 1, group number 1. So at this point, these drivers had an opportunity in group number 2 to kind of watch and learn a little bit. Did that save them from the chaos? No. A couple of the UNC Charlotte trucks caught up in some of the mess. We'll be talking about how many of those, the Belmont Davy, the UNOH trucks that were in it, they were all plenty represented in group number 2. But in the end, it was Connor Urashak, a 2-time race winner already this year, who took that group win to advance on to week 2.
Urashak also the points leader of the college series entering tonight. More beating and banging between trucks all throughout the field in Group 3, and contact in the middle of the corner. We got a pretty good set of drivers that advanced into the second round race, but it got hectic a little bit over halfway through the second round race. Daniel Falkingham, one of our top points getters, went around, had to hustle his way back in to make sure he locked down a spot easy, but it was Bradley Erickson getting his first second round win of the season, representing the Sun Devils of Arizona State, and he joins 38 other names that you'll see on our next few slides as drivers who advanced into week 2 of the Old Dominion Classic.
Yeah, and obviously the big names are there, right? You've got Connor Urashak representing the University of Calgary. He's on through. Logan Clampett's on through. Those are the first 2 names you look for because they're the top 2 in the championship, right? We did not get a moment where, could something happen to one of those really big names and drop out of it? They all kind of handled business. Daniel Naney, same thing. He gets the job done, comes into tonight in the number 4 spot. And, of course, that group number 3 winner that wrapped things up just a week ago, and Bradley Erickson, represented there with ASU on the left-hand side of your screen. All the names from him on down, the transfers from Group 3. So Lane Graves gets the honor of being the last driver to qualify through to week number 2.
The Wichita State Shocker is one of the 39. Let's take a look at tonight's Logitech G-Track analysis and learn a little bit more about Martinsville.
Yeah, other than the asphalt pave job that happened in 1955 and an addition of that more durable concrete lanes on the 12 degrees of banking, Martinsville Speedway, the only remaining NASCAR venue from the 47 season, is the same configuration as when its gates first opened. Clock it in at 0.52 miles in length. Those 12 degrees of banking in the corners might as well feel like nothing. It's going to be bumper cars when these drivers are close. Pit road speed 35 miles an hour, and it is the first week that we have seen, of course, first turn tournament, I should say, that we've seen Martinsville appear in the eNASCAR College Series.
Somebody's going home with the virtual grandfather clock tonight. Some storylines we're watching as we enter tonight's action. 13 drivers have made every single semifinal at least. They've all advanced into week 2 of every tournament in the College Series season so far. Maybe not surprisingly, that includes the top 11 drivers in the point standings. We knew that making it to week 2 was going to be a major factor in who would be able to climb up the point standings and who would be in contention for the College Series title at the end of the season. There's the factual data right in front of you that says that if you want to be there, you first have to make sure that you are present and accounted for in week 2.
And on the flip side of that, we talk about all the drivers who have been able to make it to every semifinal. How about some new representation coming to this? We'll have 8 schools making their first appearance in the semifinals here tonight in Martinsville. Now, 34 of the 39 cars competing throughout are unique drivers, so there's only a couple that double up. I am always a fan of what Canadian schools are in. We'll see Liam Lucelle, Ontario Tech, and Zach Michaelis out of Saskatchewan in the field, so going to be exciting to see what can those new faces do. May not be in contention for a championship, still race wins on the line. That's important.
Speaking of new faces, 11 drivers have advanced to the second week of competition in a tournament for the first time this season. And of those 11, 6 drivers had not competed in any of the previous 4 tournaments before we got to Martinsville. So a big shout out to Joe Hirta, Olivia Racine, Caleb Gordon, Zach Michaelis, Eugenio Acosta, and Brandon Hudson for making it into week 2 at the very first attempt, especially at a track as demanding and technical as Martinsville.
And I'll call this one the strength in numbers question mark one, because we have been used to seeing the UNCC and the Belmont Abbey cars, UNOH, battling on the racetrack. Sometimes, though, battling each other in week number 1. We saw 19 entries from those 3 schools combined. Of that, 7 make it into round number 2. If that's baseball, it's a good batting percentage, but maybe not what they were hoping for. So what do we see into those big team groups? UNOH has got the edge with 3 entries here in week number 2.
UNC Charlotte and Belmont Abbey have 2 drivers each who have advanced into week 2. Here are the standings. The number you need to keep in your head, especially at the end of the evening, is 38. If you are within 38 points of the points leader, whoever that may be, mathematically you have a shot to win the College Series title next month at Homestead, Miami. So anybody outside of that cutoff will be racing for points and for pride, but the championship won't be on the line for them in South Florida.
And there's, you look at Logan Clamp at 15 points back. The question Logan needs to decide tonight is he comfortable going into Homestead 15 points back? If he feels like he can win it from that distance, tonight's about managing. If he feels like that's too far back, he's going to be in a position to be aggressive, right? So story 1, mathematically possible. Story number 2, what do you think is realistic? We might see some drivers trying to gauge that tonight to decide how much risk they want to take in that feature.
And I think there's also something to be said about the recovery job that Connor Yarashak did at Michigan in the final. When he got turned around, he raced his way back up to the field. The points lead live was as little as 4 points. He was able to build it back up to 15. That's why he's got some sort of margin entering tonight. If it goes completely crazy, he could walk out of here with the title, but more often than not, and most likely, we will see a battle to the very end. That is it for Countdown to Green, presented by Logitech G. We'll be back on the other side with coverage of Week 2 of the Old Dominion Classic.
Times they come around, can't let them bring you down, 'cause you're either living life or letting it pass by.
How fast could a stock car go?
Born from bootleggers, built by rule breakers. We don't ask permission. We don't seek approval. We just are. The most relentless, unpretentious athletes on the planet. Chasing glory at 200 miles per hour. Defiantly unapologetic. Authentically NASCAR.
Racing isn't just a game. It's a way of life. Every lap, every moment. Practice is about consistency. Winning doesn't come easy.
Yo! My turn, Bubba.
Feel the road. Own the race. Logitech G wheels and pedals available now on Amazon.
Hey, now's the time. The kid on the rise, the top spot. When I see it, it's mine. I celebrate, yeah, I'm taking them fine. I can't tame, can't put me in line. Gotta focus, standing on business, there's no emotion. Full speed with it, can I coast to the championship, bring toast.
After week one's eliminations, the madness returns to the paperclip, Martinsville. 39 drivers are looking to make the grade and take home $3 grand in scholarships.
The time is now, whenever I can't look back. It's mine forever, the record is established. I ain't been letting the team on my back. The time is now, whenever I'm making it count. Counting the times and counting me out. Straight out of the mud, I'm making it out. I gotta get it, the time is now.
Good evening, race fans, and welcome to iRacing's coverage of Week 2 for the 5th tournament of the 2025-26 eNASCAR College iRacing Series, powered by Play vs. College League, the Old Dominion Classic. Live from the virtual Martinsville Speedway in Ridgeway, Virginia. We are set to award a virtual grandfather clock and award some actual scholarship money to one of these drivers. I'm James Pike. He's Evan Pachoco. We are ready for a fabulous evening of short track racing at the oldest track in all of NASCAR, and one that has not seen a lot of eNASCAR competition. The Ignite Series ran here 7 years ago. Before that, you had to go all the way back to 2011 to find Martinsville on an eNASCAR calendar. So this is a new experience in some sense, I think, for everyone in the field, Evan.
Yeah, and it's just tempting to step over the line, right? These drivers, if you want to step over it, it's right there. And that was the interesting dynamic we saw in week one, right? Drivers who were in a qualifying position just kind of getting roped into some Martinsville shenanigans because it's so easy to do so. So if they were willing to step over that line a little bit last week when it didn't matter really where you finished, as long as you were above the cut line, tonight where every spot matters and every point counts, could get crazy. We're about to find out.
Every single one of these drivers is going home with some form of points. That is a very, very big point to make. Some of these drivers have a little bit of support. This is a live look at Belmont Abbey College in Belmont, North Carolina. They've got 2 drivers that will be participating in the second week of the tournament this evening. A shame that one of their students decided to walk away right at the wrong time, but you see a few waves and a few hellos from the folks that are involved. Sunlight hits a little bit hard in that room when you get over there. Been on that campus a few times, and just fun to see these folks get involved and have some fun cheering on their drivers. They are not the only ones, though, with multiple drivers in these final 39. But everybody's still chasing Connor Yarashak, the points leader, as we enter tonight's second week of competition. A reminder that if you have competed in at least one time attack throughout the College Series season, you are automatically entered for a chance to win a racing prize pack, including a Logitech G923 True Force racing wheel and pedal set for the Xbox or PC, and iRacing credits, and a custom-designed eNASCAR College iRacing Series t-shirt. And for more information on that, you can scan the QR code on the lower portion of your screen or visit pcl.gg/pages/eNASCAR for more information. It is just about time for us to go racing and to start determining who will go directly into the final and who will have to go race their way into the final via the LCQ. We are set to go with our first of 3 semifinals, and we are ready to bring you our grid for the first of these 3 semifinal races that will help set the template for tonight. Dylan Alt set the fast time representing Sacramento State University. He'll start off alongside Zach Michaelis from the University of Saskatchewan, Jalen Atkins from Belmont Abbey, and Timmy Holmes from Horry Georgetown Technical College in South Carolina roll off from row 2. Carson Powers, representing the Boilermakers of Purdue, starts 5th, and UNOH's Mateo Mitchell starts this evening from 6th.
Back on row 4, you'll find a couple of UNOH trucks lined up next to each other. Tyler Skosen and Isaac Shelley will start next to each other, representing the University of Northwestern Ohio. Behind them, it's Wilson Community College's Wyatt Thompson next to the King's College entry of Douglas Newbegin. And through your top 12 starters, it's the Belmont Abbey College entry of Jake Innes and the Ball State University Toyota. That's Nady.
Caleb Gordon, the Pitt Panther for the University of Pittsburgh, making his debut in any tournament, making his debut in week 2 of any tournament, but will have work to do starting from 13th in shotgun on this field. Evan, for the first time, let's take a look at our Logitech G race analysis for the semifinals of the Old Dominion Classic.
First opportunity to punch your ticket to the feature race. 30 laps in distance. Fixed setups as always on all of these trucks, but at a short Martinsville Speedway means we're only racing for about 15 miles. It's like a trip down to the grocery store. If you finish inside of the top 5, you have punched your ticket into tonight's feature race. What you don't want to do, finish 6th on back, because then you head to the do or die semifinal LCQ.
And it gets a little bit harder. The math works out easier to where if you can qualify directly for the final from this semi, it makes it easier on you. You have to run less laps. You have to worry about less stress, less pressure of trying to qualify. You can say, you know what, I've done my job, I've done my part, I've done my piece, I am here, and I am going to the finals of this tournament. Cars are rolling off of the grid, and we are going to turn them loose next time by. So, Evan Fashoko, how excited are you to see this pan out at the very best of the best sort of level of College Series competition?
It's going to be fun. I mean, it is a significant step up in the risk, right? And what is on the line compared to week number 1, especially for the top-level drivers, right? That safety net of where those transfer numbers are a lot tighter here tonight. And if you're a guy who thinks that you can be a champion when we wrap this up at Homestead next month, you can't afford any mistakes here tonight. So you really got to choke up on the bat. You have to perform. And Martinsville is a track where trouble can find you even if you do not seek it out. So how do you balance the offensive driving and the defensive driving? I don't know where that ratio sits in a perfect world, but it's not 100 one way or the other. You got to find the right balance if you want to be successful, because you're going to need a little bit of help tonight to stay out of trouble from the guys around you.
And I think you also want to maintain the respect of your fellow competitors here. There were a few instances where some folks got into it with one another, and in some cases it became more about beating one individual who had wronged you versus actually qualifying and making your way through the tournament. So we'll see who manages the mental game of this, as Dylan Alt will manage the physical initial start of our first semifinal of 3. Green flag is out. We are underway with week 2 of the Old Dominion Classic, and wheel spin wasn't necessarily a huge issue for that bunch, as Jalen Atkins slides a little bit wide there, misses the corner, and then loops it around in the corner, misses the shift and spins. A few other trucks back there, as Dylan Alt, Zach Michaelis, Carson Bowers, Timmy Holmes, and Tyler Skosen is now racing Timmy Holmes for the transfer spot to complete lap 1.
Yeah, Mateo Mitchell, Douglas Newbegin, the other drivers who get caught up in that one. Also, Daniel Nanny got spun around and has got some left front damage. So we just mentioned those top names who cannot find challenges tonight. That's tough for Daniel Nanny, who comes into tonight number 4 in the standings. Instantly below the cut line, he's back in P10, and a damaged truck's not going to make his night any easier.
So a few of those drivers already look bound for the LCQ. In the meantime, it is a very active pack of drivers starting around Tyler Skosen. You've got Skosen, Wyatt Thompson, Jake Innes, Caleb Gordon, and Isaac Shelley all racing nose to tail. 4 of them are going to the LCQ. 1 of them is going to advance directly into the final.
We'll get a second look at what happened on the start, and James, you called it out live. I mean, the challenge was just a missed turn 1 entry for that Belmont Abbey truck, and it just opened up the door. And again, if you give somebody an opportunity to get underneath you, they're not going to second guess it. You got put in an uncomfortable position, 3 wide. Well, it's wide enough if they're parked, not normally at speed. And again, most of the trucks, just based on their qualifying effort, you start in the midfield. If there's any trouble ahead of you, there's not much you can do about it. And those other 3 trucks involved, really no fault of their own.
Yeah, Jalen Atkins missed the corner, and then it looked like he missed the shift, almost went from 3rd to 2nd instead of 3rd back to 4th, and that's what looped the truck around in the center of the corner and caused all the calamity at the back of the field. So he'll have to reboot. Oh, look at Caleb Gordon trying to send Jake Ennis out of the way, and he does send Ennis out of the way and sideways into the fence.
Well, you talk about the need and the sense of urgency, and I don't know if Ennis was really holding him up. I think it was just another one of those cases where Ennis wasn't on the bottom. And again, not that it's your fault that a guy drove through your left rear, but if you give him a half lane, you just have to know at Martinsville, these guys are going to take advantage of that. And it's such a vulnerable spot on the truck. And now that's 2 Belmont Abbey drivers who have had issues in 1 and 2. And the aggression stays ramped up because the battle for the transfer is on. Thompson with a fake peek to the bottom doesn't go for it yet in the battle for P5. On board, Carson Bowers in 2nd. Look at Dylan Alt. He is checked out up front.
Dylan Alt is in very, very good position. Bowers in arrears by about 1.4 seconds. And you look back towards Timmy Holmes and Zach Michaelis representing the University of Saskatchewan. So Canadian representation in the top 5 of this. And then at the edge of the screen, the battle for the transfer between UNOH's Tyler Skosen and Wilson Community College's Wyatt Thompson.
And jumping back now and keeping an eye on the battle that is the fight for the transfer spot. Tyler Skosen's got it in the UNOH machine. The challenger, Wyatt Thompson, all over the back bumper. I think at the moment, Wyatt Thompson's got the better of these 2 race trucks. He's the Purple Wilson Chevrolet, 2nd in line here, but you got to decide, are you going to move him out of the way? You're going to play a patient game? It's answer A, a bump and run, and now looking to the inside.
Got a really good run off of turn 4, won the drag race down to the bottom of the corner, and now is underneath Skosen to try and take away the final immediate transfer spot. How long will Skosen ride up on the high line? Not very. We'll try and cut it back down to the inside. Did a nice job trying to pull the crossover, but Reading, Pennsylvania's Tyler Skosen, Scooty T, now with a little bit of work to do, though Thompson did not have the greatest of entries in 1 and 2, and that almost opened up an opportunity for Skosen to go to the bottom, but Thompson got a good enough run out of the corner that for the moment the door is sealed.
And just based on what we saw out of them in those first dozen laps as we work lap 13, again, I think Thompson's got their better race truck. And because this race is such a short sprint, I don't think 30 laps is going to be enough to see, Thompson to be aggressive early and then start to pay a price and come back to the UNOH machine to Skosen, right? Feature race, yeah, maybe you think about that, letting the guy go and the race coming back to you, but I think Thompson just the better truck. What's interesting, right? Qualified back at the number 9 spot, but he's been on the move. And now you talk about, is it worth it? This battle between 2 trucks at a transfer spot, but it does affect where you start for the feature. Timothy Holmes says it's time to go for it. The Horry Georgetown Toyota down to the inside for P2.
That's a driver who's racing like he was mad about getting run up the racetrack, turn 1, lap 1, and has since fought his way back to the front of this field. Holmes started in the 4th position and now is working over Carson Bowers to try and lock down 2nd outright. He definitely got into him and got him up the racetrack. Not afraid to be physical here, so that might be something that Bowers remembers should both of them advance to the final, which they're in pretty good shape to do. But for the moment, still door-to-door racing for that 2nd position.
And you think the bottom's going to be the place to be, so the slight advantage in favor of Timothy Holmes for the business major at Horry Georgetown Technical College, and that's going to get the job done there. Bowers up in no man's land in 1 and 2. The Boilermaker will drop to 3rd, and Timothy Holmes now continues his march through the field up to the number 2 spot. That may be as high as that ladder goes, because just past halfway, Dylan Alt continues to stretch things out more than 2.5 seconds now. Clear is the race leader. We'll see, though, with Bauer sliding back to 3rd. Now can Zach Michaelis do anything about it in the University of Saskatchewan Chevrolet? He's the next man up on the challenge.
Worth noting that the gap between Alt and Bowers before Holmes entered the fray was about 1.4 seconds. It is now ballooned to 2.6 from Alt to Holmes. So Dylan Alt also a beneficiary of the battle for 2nd that we just saw alongside Timmy Holmes. Michaelis has an opportunity to potentially get a spot from Bowers if he wants. Wyatt Thompson has started to drive away from Isaac Shelley who has gotten around his UNOH teammate Tyler Skozin for the 6th position, but there's about a 7/10 gap between Thompson and Shelley for the final automatic transfer spot. So not really too many battles to watch. The best one on track is the one that you see on your screen between Bowers and Michaelis.
And the difference for that transfer is about 0.8 of a second. I will say Shelley was better than Thompson by about 1/10 a lap ago. And then this lap, it kind of swings back to neutral. So I think Isaac Shelley's got some speed. Scoes had recognized it, allowed his classmate on through for Shelley to get to the number 6 spot. I just don't think there's going to be enough time in semifinal number 1 for the now lead UNOH truck of the 3 that are represented here in semifinal 1 to get up and into the conversation. And the good news, if you're Wilson, is obviously you're for the Wilson machine, I should say, is that you are trying to nurse this gap. But watch the clock, 9 to go. Isaac Shelley's damaged, but he's not out of it. I mean, Wyatt Thompson can't just roll over and make this easy, so he does need to stay up on the wheel. And last lap, Thompson, a 22.15. Isaac Shelley, a 21.41. Another 10th clocked off. At that rate, I don't know, he might just get there in the closing lap.
There's certainly a possibility for that to happen. We'll see. We'll watch timing and scoring and see whether or not Shelley can make up all of this gap. If this were longer than 30 laps, I definitely think we would have a battle. But for now, it is Stantonsburg, North Carolina's Wyatt Thompson who is in control of this. Stantonsburg, maybe about 10 to 15 minutes south of Wilson, North Carolina, which is where you'll find the Wilson Community College campus. And incidentally, about 30 minutes away if you take the back roads from Southern National Motorsports Park, which also features here on the iRacing service.
Well, that look back gives you a good view of the front end damage that Isaac Shelley's been dealing with. That's been going all night long. He was in that early wreck in turn number 2. Now, he got it a lot better than a lot of the drivers did, but took a shot to the nose, and normally front end damage like that, not favorable. But he's been trucking along, no pun intended, and has appeared to be able to keep up the pace, but is running out of time. 5 laps to go in this one. Alt still clear for the lead. Timmy Holmes has been able to drive away from the ongoing battle for 3rd. Bowers again way up the hill, and Michaelis now down to the inside, takes advantage, can't hold it there, but that took a chunk out of the advantage.
Oh, and then Bowers missed the corner again. Bowers is giving Michaelis all kinds of opportunities to get underneath that Purdue Boilermakers Chevrolet Silverado, but Michaelis has just not been able to get the run out of the corner that he needs to make it happen. Maybe now there might be an opportunity as we go back on board with Isaac Shelley, who continues to reel in Wyatt Thompson, but with 3 laps to go, to your earlier point, Evan, is there enough time for Shelley to make a move?
Shelley 16th in the points, coming into tonight, a driver that expects to make semifinals and expects to make it to the feature races, has done so a majority of this season, does not want to have to go to the dreaded LCQ where the numbers are skewed against you. Got the wall that time at a 2, really pushing it as we're coming to the white flag.
One more lap and one more set of opportunities for Isaac Shelley. Meanwhile, Dylan Alt sailing out front with absolutely no company. 2.4 seconds clear of Timmy Holmes, and Dylan Alt is going to punch his ticket into the final with authority by winning this first semifinal. Bowers is going to hang on over Michaelis, and Wyatt Thompson will indeed hold off Isaac Shelley to capture the final automatic transfer spot. So we have our first 5 that we know we will see in the final coming up a little bit later this evening. And those are Dylan Alt, Timmy Holmes, Carson Bowers, Zach Michaelis, and Wyatt Thompson. Everybody from Isaac Shelley on back will be racing in the LCQ. And so from there, we turn our attention to the second semifinal race in our second crop of 13 drivers that will contest here at Martinsville for an opportunity to race in the final. The defending champion of the series, the Titan out of Cal State Fullerton, Logan Clampett, starts on pole alongside Kettering University's Maverick Davis. Nick Dyer from the University of Maine and Jacob Bradley from Purdue University in Indianapolis start in row 2. Fifth on the grid is Detroit Mercy's Andy Truppiano, longtime member and longtime participant and racer in the community. Connor Trafari representing the University of North Carolina at Charlotte, starting 6th.
Back at row number 4, you'll find the Eastern Shore Community College Chevrolet for Aaron Brown next to Jose Solis Jr. representing the University of Connecticut. Row number 5, it is the George Mason University's Zach Sprouse next to Mike Gingras from Victoriaville, Quebec. Row number 6, Peyton Wilson with Wilson Community College. We just talked about a fellow Wilson driver. He's got some work to do here, but he'll be ahead of Joe Huerta, who's with the Cal Poly University Pomona on the outside of row 6.
One more driver that will be starting in this race, and that is the driver from Chattahoochee Technical College, Chase Swank, who will start in the 13th position for this second semifinal. The Trucks Grid, we take another opportunity to take a look at a Logitech G race analysis for the second semifinal race.
The same song and dance, right? And we learned that 30-lap distance for these semifinal heat races, just enough time to give you an opportunity to make up some ground. You talk about drivers who made the transfer from the first one. Well, a couple of those drivers transferred in from outside of the cut line entering. The biggest one, notably, Thompson went from 9th to 5th. So managing the gaps, trying to get to a top 5 spot, but also, and you can see, I don't know if it's a Martinsville hot dog or not. I see at least ketchup, which I co-sign. Ready to go, but you got to wrap it up. These trucks are on the grid. The one thing I took away, James, and it's not noted there, but it's true last week and for the first couple races here tonight, the fact that we don't have the cautions, right? If you have any sort of blip, any sort of mistake, if it's big damage, no damage, you name it, you don't get a chance to come back from that. And that's really the troublesome part about this is there is no mulligan. It is a very short leash, and you got to be perfect.
Credit to Nelsonia, Virginia's Aaron Brown from Eastern Shore Community College for the hot dog consumption there to get us going for the second semifinal. Although worth noting that if you are doing this properly, it is slaw, and it is chili, and it is chopped onions, and it is mustard, and that is what goes on your boiled hot dog at Martinsville Speedway. So, not that I don't love a good ketchup hot dog, because I do, but if we're being technical, there are levels to it. And if you want more information on how to start your iRacing career and how you could potentially one day be one of the drivers here at this virtual Martinsville Speedway, you can log on to iRacing.com today to find out how you can start your iRacing career. Lights are off on the pace car. Clampett and Davis, your two that will lead us to green. I think another point worth noting here is sometimes we have drivers that can throw down a really strong qualifying lap and then end up in trouble, and nerves hit them, cold tires hit them, they lose control early on in these semifinals. We saw that a little bit in the first semifinal. Will we see that in the second? That's the question, and one of the many that we'll be watching for as Logan Clampett leads this to green. Pretty clean run up through the gears for most of this field as they work their way down into one.
A much cleaner start than what we saw in semifinal number 1. 2 wide throughout the field, clear for the lead. Clampett in the number 1 position. Davis over Dyer in a battle for second. Can the Kettering machine get it done on the outside? Nick Dyer does not want to allow that to happen, but it does. Nice move from Maverick. Davis slides into P2.
Davis is there. Logan Clampett did not get through 3 and 4 well the last time around at all. The rear end stepped out from underneath him just a little bit. I wonder now if the tires coming up to Tim, if that might not be as much of an issue, but Clampett's still in control of this. Andy Trupiano, Jacob Bradley, and Connor Trafari almost went 3 wide, a little bit further back of this, and this is a good look off of the nose of Stafford, Virginia's Zach Sprouse, the George Mason Patriot, who currently rides in the 9th position and has a great view of this transfer battle.
It is a hornet's nest, side by side, all behind Jacob Bradley on back. You've got the battle between Bradley on the outside, Trafari on the bottom. Behind them, it's Brown and Solis next to each other. That Purdue truck up on the outside of Bradley was in no man's land for the opening few laps and has now done a good job of trying to pinch Trafari down and stay in this thing. Again, the outside was a viable option. It's no longer a death sentence to be stuck up top, but it is risky because there is nowhere for this truck to get in line. He's either got to get ahead of Trafari or he's going to be stuck up top for pretty much the duration of this race.
I think the toughest thing is that outside line does come into play, I think, later on in the runs. We saw it right towards the end of that heat as you get a good look at Peyton Wilson representing Wilson Community College from Wilson, North Carolina. I say that 5 times fast. But We saw it, really it was about lap 45 in the second round races 1 week ago, where the groove really did shift, and you saw it in particular from Connor Yarashak and Matthew Zwack, as there's a little bit of contact that will send Aaron Brown and Zach Sprouse ahead of Connor Trafari down the front straightaway. But we saw it, and I believe Mick Gingras went sideways and for a spin in the middle of the 1 and 2, but there was a point where you saw drivers willingly start making their way towards the high line because that's where the grip was. And as these tires wear out, you should see that shift. Maybe not so much in the semifinals, but I definitely think we'll see it in the final later on.
Yeah, and it happened, early. I was surprised. Jacob Bradley, I was talking about how it wasn't quite a death sentence, but still not the place you wanted to be up top. He used that outside line, made the pass. So he got around Aaron Brown in what ended up being the current battle for the transfer spot. So Bradley in, Brown out, and that's all because Trafari just completely missed turn 3 entry a couple laps ago. That's what opened the door and allowed Aaron Brown from Eastern Shore and allowed the George Mason University entry as Zach Sprouse to get around him. So Trafari goes from in to out by 3 positions in just a handful of laps.
Bradley has also started to open up a bit of a gap on Aaron Brown. It's 0.4 of a second, and that's actually grown over the last handful of laps. He's getting out of the corner better than Aaron Brown, better than Zach Sprouse, and making this less of a battle for the transfer spot as you get a good look at Connor Trafari, who still has work to do. Currently scored in the 8th position and is going to have to race his way back up to Bradley in 5th just to have an opportunity. There's the contact between Peyton Wilson and Mick Gingras, who sent one of our Quebecois entries into the inside retaining wall in the middle of 1 and 2. Gingras likely headed to the LCQ. Trafari still trying to run down Sprouse and Brown and Bradley.
Couple of Quebecers represented in this one. Of course, drivers eligible to compete in this series from representing colleges and universities across the United States and Canada. All had to qualify in through the time attack a couple of weeks ago, survive week number 1. All of that just to get to another qualifying race if they want to earn the maximum points available when we talk about the feature going on a little bit later on. On board with Trafari, started up in the number 6 spot, was as high as the transfer spot in 5th, but after sliding to 8th spot, the UNC Charlotte Niner just has not been able to make up ground. And in fact, I would argue Zach Sprouse going further and further away out in front. I think Trafari might have to worry about Jose Solis Jr. soon. That's the entry from the Yukon Husky just behind him.
Sprouse was quicker by 0.5 hundredth, and Solis was quicker by maybe 1/4 hundredth as we now go on board with Aaron Brown. The hot dogs have been put to the side, so focus is entirely forward on trying to run down Jacob Bradley. This is the battle for the transfer position. It has held at about 0.4 of a second, and Brown really doesn't have an opportunity to rest because if for whatever reason he makes a mistake, then George Mason's Zach Sprouse is going to be right there on his rear deck plate.
And of course, even if it's not for that transfer spot, which is where Jacob Bradley continues to sit in the Purdue Indy machine, there are some silver linings to be had for the drivers further on back. If you can't make the transfer bubble, your finishing position in these semifinals will impact where you start for the LCQ. We don't re-qualify them before that. So if you're looking for a silver lining, even if you have a mistake, there's a reason to stay out there. I think that's why Mike Gringras in the Victoriaville Toyota machine out of Quebec is still on track in 13th, right? Hoping, hey, maybe somebody is involved in an accident, drops out of this, I can pick up a spot or 2 on the grid. So something to be fought for besides just the bubble, but I think the bubble's the spot to watch because Aaron Brown, I think the better truck between these two at the moment, and you can see Bradley just can't keep it on the bottom. It opens the door not only for Brown to get to the inside the challenge, but if you're not running right down there on the curb, you're not running really the optimal line when you're single file.
And I think the most important thing to note between Bradley and Aaron Brown is that Bradley is sliding his truck on corner entry far more so than Brown is. Brown has that thing pretty well planted down right along the curb once they get to the apex of 1 and 2 or 3 and 4, and Bradley continues to slide the truck sort of up almost a little bit off the center a little bit, which is only going to hurt the tires underneath Bradley's Chevrolet Silverado even more. So Bradley's going to have a lot of work to do, a lot of defense to play, but Aaron Brown gave him a little bit of a gift, got a little bit loose out of 4 that last time by.
That's something that it's so easy to get roped into if you're Aaron Brown, as you get this look from high and wide, right? Is you can be the better truck and you get, a 100th here or there or a 10th here or there. And then you just get caught into, I want more, right? You start to push it. You go away from your line. And when you start to try to overdrive the truck to get position on the guy in front of you, that's how you miss the entry. That's how you spin the tires off the corner. That's how you wear out your equipment. So it's tough for Aaron Brown because, again, I think if these were two cars on a long run or on track by themselves, I think Brown is the faster truck right now. But you can't just run at that slightly better pace and get around the guy in front of you. At some point, if you're Aaron Brown, you have to change something to get either to the inside or the outside of that Purdue truck in front of you, and that's where you start to make those mistakes.
Here's a good look at the defending champion of the College Series from Trabuco Canyon, California, Logan Clampett, who is out in front of Maverick Davis by just over a second. Great run for Maverick Davis, by the way. That's a driver who is more often than not just run into bad luck during these College Series tournaments and has not had a finish that has represented the pace that he has had for Kettering University, the Sports Creek, Michigan native. But tonight, Maverick Davis looking like, barring the unexpected, that he's well on his way to an appearance in the final.
Yeah, it's just been so consistent. The driver at Schwartz Creek has not put a Goodyear Eagle wrong yet and just continues to run strong. Again, Clampett, the faster truck, has been able to pull away from these two, but Davis a second behind Clampett. You look a second further down the road, you'll find Nick Dyer, the driver out of Hallowell, Maine. He and Andy Tripiano in a battle for the third and fourth position. Tripiano's right there representing Detroit Mercy. But again, they are both above the cut line. I'd be surprised if these drivers decide to risk the current running order. I think Tripiano would be just fine with finishing fourth in this semifinal and moving on through. And then the only next step back is then to Jacob Bradley, who sits on the bubble. Aaron Brown has been stuck at a tantalizing 1 to 2 truck length disadvantage. It's held that way for about the last dozen laps, but he does not have much time left.
Is running out of time, and boy, has the rear end of Jacob Bradley's truck been very wiggly on corner entry. You can see it visibly sort of yaw out. You can see the rear end step out from underneath Bradley on corner entry. So can Bradley hang on for this final handful of laps, or will Aaron Brown have some sort of final move that he can make to potentially claim a spot directly in the final?
And you can see Brown, the onboard on the nose. I mean, he's driving it so deep into the corner because he hasn't been able to get to Bradley yet. The problem is it hurts him on exit. You're not going to get past a guy unless you can get speed to be there and make the pass. He's only got a lap left.
2 more opportunities for Aaron Brown to try and get the spot away from Jacob Bradley. In the meantime, Logan Clampett making this a very strong showing for the California natives. We had one win our first semifinal. We're going to have another one win the second semifinal as Clampett takes the second semi. And in the end, it was Jacob Bradley who was able to keep the transfer spot over Aaron Brown. So Bradley will head to the finals directly, and Brown will start near the front of the LCQ. Clampett, Davis, Dyer, Trupiano, Bradley, the 5 that will contest immediately and directly for the Old Dominion Classic. And Aaron Brown leads the pack of drivers who will have to race their way through the LCQ in order to make it to the finals. One more semi-final race that will set the table and give us the list of drivers who will go directly into the final and who will be racing in that dreaded last chance qualifier. Let's give you the starting grid for our last semifinal of the tournament. Daniel Falkingham had a wild second round 1 week ago, but the University of Maine at Machias driver and winner of the most recent tournament at Michigan starts on pole alongside our points leader, Calgary's Connor Yarashak. Adam Garza from Triton College and Matthew Zwack from Michigan roll off from 3rd and 4th. 5th on the grid is Bradley Erickson, who won Group 3 second round race, the Arizona State Sun Devil, and Brandon Hudson continues the UNC Charlotte 49er presence. He starts 6th.
And then you'll find Liam Lozelle, who's the automotive engineering sophomore for Ontario Tech University on the inside of number 4. He'll be next to the Valencia College Ford entry of Eugenio Acosta. Then it is Lane Graves, the Wichita State University driver. He'll line up next to Olivier Racine, representing the college in Beauce-Appelé. And then it is Trey McCrickard, Augusta University, inside of number 6, number 11 on the grid. And then Nick Miller for Kutztown University of Pennsylvania. He starts in P12.
One more driver on the grid, and it is the Buckeye from the Ohio State University, Matthew Morton, veteran in the College Series, who will roll off from the 13th position on the grid. So there is your starting grid. One more time, let's bring up our Logitech G race analysis.
30 laps for one final time. Same fixed setups. Again, the goal is the top 5 advance to the final round. So in semifinal number 1, we saw one driver from below the top 5 in the qualifying order make it in. In semifinal number 2, we saw none. So qualifying is of a huge importance. We could have told you that, I know. But it goes to show that if you run the numbers, that's 9 out of the 10 drivers who have advanced already started from above the cut line. So drivers have not been able to use that short 30-lap race distance. We've seen drivers knocking on the door for the bubble in both games, but they haven't been able to open it. Top 5, big advantage if you can start up front and just get through turns 1 and 2 cleanly and let everybody else infight behind you.
Track position mattering at a short track. Color me very surprised.
Who would have thought?
I know, right? So what I do think might be interesting to note is that we have seen a little bit of cloud cover come over Martinsville, so that will cool the track down a bit, give it a little bit more grip. That may help some of the more aggressive drivers here on the racetrack ever so slightly. Not massively, but if you're the kind of driver like a Jacob Bradley who was sliding on corner entry, who maybe didn't quite have the brake bias set the way that you wanted to, this is the kind of thing that will help, but that's also the kind of thing that might make the semifinal all the more entertaining as well.
And just waiting to see, right? Is somebody able to just get that little bit more? I feel like if both of these semifinal races were 35 lap James, we probably would have seen a pass for the final transfer spot, but they're not 35. They're only 30. What can you do to make a difference? It's been a challenge below the cut.
How will we shake this one out to determine the final 5 to join the 15 that automatically will qualify? Falkingham and Yarashak lead us to green. Good start for everybody coming down the front stretch, and now they start sliding sideways and wide and working their way through the corners, and Adam Garza already working to the inside of Connor Yarashak.
Oh, trouble with the spinner behind the leaders. Of course, there's no caution, so we're going to stay green. But there's trouble in the back for several trucks. It's going to take one of the names out. Matthew Morton, I think, one of the names who drops to the rear. This is one of the most stacked of the semifinals we've seen. You've got Falkingham, Urashak, Erickson, Morton, Lozelle. I mean, top drivers from your top 6 or so in the points on the line in this one.
Lozelle was the truck that got sent into the wall in the middle of turn 3 last time by, as Bradley Erickson had to hang on to it and then some just to keep from spinning underneath Matthew's whack. In the meantime, he's got a rearview mirror completely full of Brandon Hudson, and this also happens to be the battle for the transfer spot. There's a good look at Eugenio Acosta getting into Liam Lozelle, and Olivier Racine was the other driver who got into trouble as they stack up a little bit further back there. Looks like Acosta running into a little bit of trouble. And then one truck, McQuicker, gets sent sideways just out of the picture, and he will end up in the LCQ most likely, as we turn our attention back towards some of these drivers up front and up towards the battle for the race lead.
And Acosta was on his own, but he entered the corner right on that split. You can see the lighter colored inside of the racetrack compared to the paving asphalt on the outside. He kind of entered it right in the middle, just lost it on his own. So McCricker drops to the back. Falkingham continues to lead. And then look at this mess that's going on through the corner, but it's all behind the bubble. I mean, this is not enough. The top prize in this battle is where Olivier Racine drives, but he's in the number 8 spot. Still not good enough for any of these drivers. Racine leads Graves, who's in a battle with Matthew Morton. Behind them, you got Nick Miller. It's a 4-truck battle, but they are not doing themselves any favor in terms of catching up to that number 5 spot if they're fighting back here.
Here's a good look at Pickerington, Ohio's Matthew Morton, the Ohio State Buckeye, the senior finance major, who all of a sudden, and one of the points that we brought up a little bit last week, but one that I think is worth hammering home for some of these seniors and these graduate students, their college series career is quickly coming to a close. And Morton's been a veteran for a few seasons in this competition now, so I have to imagine he'll want to end his time in the college series with a strong run both here and then at Homestead, Miami.
Yeah, that's the interesting thing about this series, not too dissimilar to the eNASCAR Ignite series that you name-dropped with a bit of eNASCAR lore a little bit earlier, right? Talking about last times we've seen Martinsville is you have a finite time to compete. Unlike the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Championship Series where you can qualify year after year after year, there's a finite time in which you meet the requirements to be able to be in this series, right? Logan Clampett coming up against that window. We've seen that window come to go for the likes of Steven Wilson and some other drivers who have found success in this series in the past. So you really do have to make the most of your time, much like you do in school at college, right? You got to find that amount of time to make the most of the experience as you go on board with the Bubble Man. Bradley Erickson on the transfer spot, trying to catch up to Matthew Zawak and Adam Garza. There is about a 2.5 truck length gap from him back to Brandon Hudson. So as Erickson is in the transfer spot, it's not a pressing matter from Hudson at the moment, but you don't want to wait on the number 5 spot for that guy to catch you, James. He's got a lot of incentive here to get around Zawak and put a buffer between him and a ticket into the LCQ.
Look at the pressure that Bradley Erickson is putting on Matthew Zawak. Does not want to give Brandon Hudson a chance to make this a 3-truck battle. As you get a good look at the race leaders, Daniel Falkingham, Connor Yarishak have paced this field since we dropped the green flag some 13 laps ago. They are clear of Adam Garza by about 1.6 seconds. Here's Falkingham. Remember, he got spun coming out of 4 in his second round race and had to rally a little bit just to make it into week 2. But now that he's here in week 2, this is the kind of Daniel Falkingham performance that we expect to see on a regular basis, the kind of Falkingham that won the Great Lakes Classic at Michigan 1 month ago in our most recent tournament. In that sense, not a surprise at all to see him fighting our points leader, Connor Yarishak, for the lead in this semi.
And Falkingham is somebody else right there with Yarishak, who I mentioned earlier. What gap are you comfortable with? Feeling like you could be a championship contender. That was referencing Clampett, who we know is already into the feature tonight, 15 points behind Yarishak. Well, Falkingham's 20 back, right? So it's critical. You got to make it to the show. If you do not qualify for tonight's feature, I think you can basically write off any opportunity of being there at Homestead. So step number 1, get to the feature, and then we can start talking about championship point implications based on where Yarishak, Clampett, and Falkingham run, because they have all looked good tonight. No shocker there. They have been the stories for much of the weeks here in the spring semester half of this college series.
Brandon Hudson is trying to fight that Charlotte 49er machine up to the battle for the 4th position realistically. And I think this provides a very interesting dichotomy for Erickson in particular, because you certainly have pace. You'd look faster than Matthew Zawak the last handful of laps or so, but if you try and force the issue, do you potentially open up the door not only to trouble, but to your spots directly into the finals entirely? And in that sense, how much do you decide to push the issue with Matthew Zawak, or do you just say, let's qualify for the final and then we'll figure it out there?
And with the way they run, and I know the LCQ is a different animal, but the way they run right now is exactly how the top 5 started. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, no changes. Even include Hudson in that. Run in P6 exactly where he started. So if this were to hold, you're looking at 14 of the 15 transfers from the semifinals coming from people who started above the cut. So, yes, would Brandon Hudson love to avoid the LCQ? Absolutely. I would not take any scenario where I would willingly go through that because it is tougher. But to that point, right, if you really start to push things, you're 1.2 seconds off. Are you really going to put yourself in a position to mess that up? Because it would give you a good position to start the LCQ. And again, the numbers tell us you've got like a 90+% chance of making it through if you start one of these races above that cut.
Adam Garza, headband and all, representing Triton College out of Forest Park, Illinois, continuing to pace Matthew Zawak, holds the 3rd spot and would be an automatic qualifier into the final as it stands as we hit 10 laps to go. Matthew Morton, to your point of drivers not being able to gain positions in the top 5, outside of it, we've seen some shuffling. Morton's the hardest charger in this group, 5 spots up, and then Olivier Racine is up 3 spots. Started in the 10th position, now currently runs in the 7th position, does the Cégep Bosch Appalache driver out of Quebec.
And, of course, all of that at the detriment of who? Well, we talked about Liam Lozelle, the Ontario Tech Machine. Had issues on the opening laps of this race. We talked about Trey McCrickard, who had the self-spin. That's the reason why some spots were available to pick up. But, credit to Racine and to Morton. They've got more than just those 2 in hand, so they've had a good job. And that could be a sign that if you get to the feature with a truck that's able to consistently make up spots as we work into a run, then again, maybe you are just either, with the way that you treat this truck and the fixed setup, better suited for a longer run. And it could be somebody who may start from the rear if you qualify, but could make some noise as we carry on. Speaking of which, how about some noise in the battle for the race lead? Falkenham has been uncontested. No longer. Urashak is there.
Yarashak with the bumper just to make sure that Falkenham got nudged up the racetrack ever so slightly. And now Yarashak looking to the inside here with 5 laps to go. They're clear of Adam Garza by 1.7 seconds. So breathing room for these two, but a great battle for the lead in the semifinal.
And Urashak establishing the inside positioning can make a decision here. How aggressive are you going to be on Daniel Falkenham? Are you going to hold the bottom and give Falkenham a fighting chance? Or do you run him up the hill? Because you could make this battle end super quick. And that's just go high on corner entry and push Falkenham up and into the dark stuff. That would get the job done. Instead, looks like a fair battle right now, nose to nose. Falkenham doing such a good job, though, of carrying speed around the outside. Urashak's going to have to get a little bit more aggressive because Falkenham's taking what that Calgary Dyno's giving him, and he's doing enough with it to stay in front.
And fortunately for Falkenham, this is about the time in these races where we've started to see that outside groove come in. So it's a possibility, though, they make contact there out of turn 4, coming to 2 laps to go. And now Yarashak will have to settle back in. So does he use the rear bumper again? Falkenham goes up the racetrack to defend.
And now that he's back in line, he goes just straight bumper-to-bumper contact. Another move there for Falkenham. But again, Urashak already got to the bottom once. He couldn't do anything with it. What different can he try in the final half mile?
Will there be another bump in the middle of the corner? Yes, there will be. That opens the door for Falkenham, and rather Yarashak to work his way underneath. Big drive from Connor Yarashak. He makes contact with Daniel Falkenham and makes sure that there is zero doubt that he wins the semifinal. Bradley Erickson has already crossed the line in 5th, and we know the final 5 drivers that automatically are transferring, and Falkenham does not look happy about the way that ended.
Well, I told you he could make it easy, and that's just run him up the hill. Urashak didn't do it the first time. He certainly made no doubt of it with that move on the final lap.
Yarashak, Falkenham, Garza, Zwack, and Erickson, the 5 we will see for certain in the final. And Brandon Hudson is the first driver from this semifinal who's going to have to race his way in via the last chance qualifier. So you've got that group of drivers, and then Acosta, Loisel, and McCrickard, who also are going to have to fight their way into this. So here we go. One more opportunity for these drivers to try and transfer. One more shot for these drivers to try and find their way into the final. Isaac Shelley from UNOH and Aaron Brown from Eastern Shore Community College make up your front row. UNC Charlotte's Brendan Hudson and Daniel Nanny start 3rd and 4th.
Today, round 3, you got Douglas Newbegin and Jose Solis Jr. on row number 4. Matthew Morton and Tyler Skozin, the UNOH driver, back there on row 5.
Caleb Gordon from the University of Pittsburgh. Jalen Atkins was that one driver who started in the top 5. They did not finish in the top 5 that you mentioned, Evan Pashoko. So pressure there for him to try and get his way into the top 10 here. Jake Innes, his teammate from Belmont Abbey, going to try and work with him to get up front. Mateo Mitchell going to try and hold down the fort for UNOH and get multiple drivers from their contingent into the top 25. That's a look at your grid. Let's take a look at the slightly different and revised Logitech G-Track analysis after we get a good look from the folks at UNC Charlotte, who are trying to get multiple drivers into the finals and get 2 amongst the final 25.
There you go. They see themselves. They've got the rigs set up in the background. That looks like a good place to hang, and for their sake, a good place to hopefully watch Brandon Hudson get the job done. He's their best bet here in this one. And why not? It's round number 2, and I think we can definitively say, right, that's catch-up only.
That is absolutely catch-up only. I feel like Aaron Brown's trying to work on a Ballpark Franks deal or a Nathan's deal or something maybe.
What is the eNASCAR college version of the 999 challenge? We'll discuss that later on. We look at the Logitech G race analysis, and it stays somewhat similar to what you saw earlier. It's still a 30-lap sprint with a fixed setup. The difference here is the number of trucks total and the number that transfers. So instead of racing with 13, you got a field 24 trucks strong. But the top 10 is the cut line. Top 10 drivers will advance into the feature race. If you do not, you still score some points. 11th position on back will be eliminated, but they do score points. 11 championship points for the driver who finishes 11th in this one, then 10, then 9, so on and so forth. So we will hand out some consolation points to the drivers who finish 11th on back, but the goal, top 10, race in the feature.
Make sure that you are part of the final 25. Give yourself an opportunity to race for the scholarship money and for the greater points. And for some drivers, especially some names towards the front of this field, I think of the Skosens, the Sprouses, the Nannies, the Shelleys, who have been near the top of the point standings all season long. It is critical for them to make sure that they are racing in the final, just to make sure they stay within 38 points of either Connor Yershak, or if for whatever reason we see a change in the points lead tonight. But again, you've got to be top 30, or rather 38 points or closer to the points leader by the end of the night if you mathematically want a shot at Homestead in April. Green flag is out and we are underway, and wheel spin all over the place there at the front of the field, and that will stack them up into one.
It was Brandon Hudson who got a shot in the back end from Zach Sprouse, but he reeled it in 3 wide. Behind them, one of the UNOH trucks is way up into a third lane. That was Tyler Skosen, who was up in no man's land. And how about the other UNOH truck up in front? Isaac Shelley from pole, trying to stay in the number 1 spot. Aaron Brown doing a good job of being a thorn in his side, but does get cleared off of turn 2.
Aaron Brown there, Daniel Nanny, Brandon Hudson racing with Olivier Racine, all of them trying to find a way into this final, but Shelley clear of this group and by at least a truck length or 2. Nanny is now locked down that second spot ahead of Brown, and Racine is fighting Brandon Hudson for a spot there on the inside.
And all of that going on inside of the transfer window. So how aggressive do you decide to be? Meanwhile, you can't take those same liberties here. This is the battle for the transfer. Matthew Morton is the last man in, but he's on the outside of 2 by 2 by 2 by 2. It's a full speed restart lineup they've got here. One driver thought about making it 3 wide. That was Swank in the back who thought better of it.
Lots of drivers looking for track position, looking for space, looking for any sort of breathing room whatsoever. They almost went 3 wide, just a little bit further back, and then thought better of it, and they will maybe go 3 wide. There's contact there between Innes and I believe Chase Swank, as they'll continue to try and fight for track position, but Swank is all over the place there, just trying to hang on.
And Gordon really ran Swank up the hill there, and what this is doing is it's really neutering the drivers from 12th position on back. I mean, they're going at it so aggressively that all of a sudden they've opened up a big gap to the battle ahead of them. They're going to have to then chase back down. They cost themselves a full second on the stopwatch. You're not going to be able to make up that gap with ease. And now that they've got single file, they can try. Caleb Gordon comes out as the leader in that. It's going to be P12, so he's got some work to do. Let's watch, though, on board with the big checkup on the green flag. Look at that move through the middle, 3 wide. The inside is where they had trouble getting going.
Really good work there for Brandon Hudson to climb literally through the middle of this pack to get the track position. In the meantime, keeping an eye on Caleb Gordon and Matthew Morton. They are racing for the transfer. A little bit further back, that's Chase Swank and Lane Graves that you see trying to go right after each other here for position.
And Miller, I just saw drop down the running order. So Nick Miller was in the number 9 spot. That truck is damaged and down in the running order, way down the running order. In fact, now in 24th. So something happened to one of your trucks above the transfer line. And what that has allowed is opened up a spot for Jose Solis Jr. now to become the man above the yellow line. So Morton goes from 10th to 9th. Solis, all of a sudden, you blink, you're in. And now he's the guy on the hot seat with Caleb Gordon just ahead of this battle for P12 odd back, chasing Jose down.
You know, Evan, worth noting here, I think, that Nick Miller had some contact on the front straightaway coming out of turn 4, and the driver that he made contact with was Jose Solis Jr. There was hard racing right around that transfer spot, so everybody getting after it pretty heavily to try and make sure they are within the top 10. Meanwhile, all of these drivers here that you see chasing down the blue and yellow of Caleb Gordon, and then Jose Solis Jr. ahead of them. Solis is the transfer spot. Here's a look at what happened with Miller and Solis Jr., and there's contact there just ever so slightly out of 4, and Nick Miller's the one that goes around and backwards down the front straightaway.
Yeah, and Solis, I mean, credit to him, he was on the outside and held his positioning. So he was in that spot, and there's a send, and the Ontario Tech truck around for a second time in his many appearances on the racetrack. Now another spinner on the front stretch, Caleb Gordon, who was in a transfer potential position. He is damaged and stuck up on the inside wall. So 2 pairs of sends in a single lap has shuffled this thing up, and we are far from done yet, because the battle between Mick Gingras and Jake Innes continues on, and you got the Chattahoochee Tech machine, Chase Swank, center of it all.
All that battling, all that's done as we take a look at what happened a little bit further back. There's the contact on Loisel, and then contact between Swank and Caleb Gordon on the front straightaway. But all that's done is giving Jose Solis more breathing room. 1.4 seconds between Gingras and Solis, and that is officially the battle for 10th and 11th. However, this is really more battle for 11th and 12th that you see on your screen than 10th and 11th.
What a big punt there. The aggressor in this one going to be the Wichita State entry, Elaine Graves. He moved Jake Innes up and out of the way, and now Innes trying to return the favor while battling Mateo Mitchell. That's the UNOH truck down to the inside. So they are side by side in what is the battle for 14th and 15th spot. The prize, though, is the Lane Graves machine, who he feels like clearly he's a better truck. Otherwise, he would have punted Innes out of the way. The problem is, if you're going to punt some of that out of the way, you got to get away from him so he can't dish it back. He gets some time there because Innes and Mitchell slowing each other down by racing side by side.
Which is true, but at some level it doesn't matter, because if you want to continue to race here beyond the next 12 laps, you have to find a way to go get Jose Solis Jr. And right now, they're still well deep in the field. So the Belmont Abbey contingent trying to make sense of what has happened here as we continue to watch these battles for track position. But Solis in control of the transfer and is now, I think, finally in line there. But again, all of this happening well back of that transfer cutoff in 10th.
And another shot to the bumper there, and this is where you start to see some of the desperation. Close it in on the final 10 laps of this LCQ. If you're back here in 13th, 14th, 15th, the spots that we've been watching, you need something big to happen. And, you know, up in the battle for P2 now, there is some risk versus reward here, right? We questioned, you know, if you were in a transfer spot in week 1, what's the difference fighting for a second or a third or a fourth, right? You just requalify in week 2. When you don't requalify here in week 2, right? You're finishing the position here, going to establish where you line up for the feature race. So there is some incentive for an Aaron Brown to get aggressive with Daniel Naney, for Olivier Racine to get in on the action. It is not worth stepping over the line and risking your transfer spot, but it is worth something to maybe give yourself a better spot when it comes time for the feature.
Mateo Mitchell just gave Jake Innes a shot there in the middle in 3 and 4. We'll go on board with Mitchell and see if that happens once again. Big shot there in the center of the corner, but they're running slightly different lines as well. Innes is braking a little bit more heavily in the center, but he's getting out of these corners a little bit better. Mitchell is charging corner entry and giving up speed on exit, and that crossover point is where you see the bumping, the beating, the banging in the center of the corner. Good look here at Aaron Brown once again, who's got 5th largely all by himself. Brandon Hudson is the next truck there. He and Connor Trafari running inside the top 10, and that would give UNC Charlotte 2 trucks into the final if that holds.
And they're running in the number 6 and 7 spots right now, so maybe do a little bit of protecting and taking care of each other, right? We talk about the risk of, is it worth making a move for those two? The answer is no. Protect one another. Here's a replay of the contact between the Eastern Shore and the Ball State entry as Brown up against the inside wall, dropping that truck way down in the running order. So a moment there for Brown. He slides to the number 5 spot, down 3 spots from where he started. Again, still in a spot to move on, but those are the exact risks we were just having the debate over on, is that spot worth it? If that was worse contact, he might have been worried. I don't think that's enough damage to take him out of this thing. He should still transfer, but I just wouldn't risk it.
Breathing room is a scary thing here. How much will the UNC Charlotte drivers try and work together as they continue to work their way around Martinsville? This is the battle for 6th. That is Matthew Morton currently riding in 8th. Everybody here would transfer as it stands. This is solely for starting position, but you can see the UNC Charlotte drivers, Jafari and Hudson, doing a nice job of working together to keep Morton at bay.
And now inside of 5 laps to go in this race, it's worth noting as we watch the battle between the UNC Charlotte machines, and it's the Ohio State Buckeye who's the instigator, and Matthew Morton trying to break it up, that right now there is no battle for the bubble. 2-second difference between Newbegin in 10th and Gingras in the number 11 spot. So if it holds, these trucks just infighting for field position on the grid in the feature if they stay clean.
Jafari with that great work running the outside lane, really just chopping off Morton's road in any sort of room that he's got there. Contact, though, a little bit in the center of the quarter as we work our way towards the white flag in this LCQ. Jafari, though, with the good run out of the corner, had to go to the high line there to keep Hudson backed up, and Solis Jr. now starting to make his presence felt at the back of this group.
White flag in the air, 1 lap to go. Isaac Shelley, what a night so far. Perfect in the LCQ.
Isaac Shelley, wire to wire, making it easy and making it clean as Shelley will work back to the start-finish line and claim the LCQ. And Douglas Newbegin is going to be the final transfer driver representing Kings College. Newbegin finishes 10th. And is the last driver that will advance forward into our main event. Here are the 10 that are advancing into the finals. UNOH's Isaac Shelley, Ball State's Daniel Nenny, Olivier Racine from Cégep Beauge-Appalaches, Zach Sprouse from George Mason, Eastern Shore's Aaron Brown, UNC Charlotte's Connor Jafari and Brandon Hudson, UConn's Jose Solis Jr., Ohio State's Matthew Morton, and Kings College's Douglas Newbegin, the 10 drivers who will complete the 25 truck field that will contest the final of the Old Dominion Classic. We will take a commercial break and then be back. And on the other side, we're handing out a virtual grandfather clock. We're handing out some actual scholarship money. And we are crowning a champion of the Old Dominion Classic and the eNASCAR College iRacing Series. More from Martinsville after this.
How fast could a stock car go?
Born from bootleggers, built by rule breakers. We don't ask permission. We don't seek approval. We just are. The most relentless, unpretentious athletes on the planet. Chasing glory at 200 miles per hour. Defiantly unapologetic. Authentically NASCAR.
Racing isn't just a game. It's a way of life. Every lap, every moment. Practice is about consistency. Winning doesn't come easy.
Yo!
My turn, Bubba.
Feel the road. Own the race. Logitech G wheels and pedals available now on Amazon.
This portion of the broadcast is brought to you by Logitech G. Through design, engineering, and a love of driving games, Logitech G takes racing simulation to another level. Logitech G, the official wheel and pedals of the eNASCAR College iRacing Series. And by Play vs. College League, the largest collegiate community bringing in the new era of esports for students across the country. Learn more at pcl.gg. And by NASCAR 25. Available now on the PlayStation Store, Xbox Store, and on PC with Steam. For more information, visit NASCAR25.com.
Welcome back to coverage of the eNASCAR College iRacing Series powered by Play vs. College League. A reminder that if you have contested at least one of the now 5 time attacks that have been held during the College Series season, then you are automatically going to be entered for a chance to win a racing prize pack, including a Logitech G923 True Force racing wheel and pedal set for the Xbox or PlayStation, as well as some iRacing credits and a custom-designed eNASCAR College iRacing Series t-shirt. More information on that and everything else you want to know about the College Series available at pcl.gg/pages/eNASCAR. In the meantime, before we get to our next time attack for Homestead Miami, this weekend, Evan, one of the biggest special events of the year in iRacing, the 12 Hours of Sebring, coming our way.
Yeah, you're going to have 4 opportunities to compete in that one over the course of the weekend. We'll have top split coverage for you Saturday at 8:30 Eastern Time. And we mentioned it a couple times, but iRacing Arcade is available now. If you thought I want competitive racing, but just make it a little cuter, that's what this is. You can race your way through the ranks. You can build your little town that is essentially your race shop. I kept redesigning the roads as I upgrade my engine shop and my garage to make it very aesthetically pleasing. So it's a fun time. You can scan the QR code to get in on the action on Steam.
And then, if you would like to get to the action on consoles, NASCAR 25 is now available on Steam, PlayStation, and Xbox. You've got a whole host of licensed drivers from the Arkham Menards Series, the Craftsman Truck Series, the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series, and, of course, the NASCAR Cup Season. Laser scan tracks for all points venues on the NASCAR circuits, and 40-player online multiplayer as well. If you've not done Daytona or Talladega in this multiplayer, Evan, you are missing out. It is a wild time.
And honestly, sometimes I just let the menu sit open and I just listen to the soundtrack, for 20 minutes, 30 minutes, get you in the action and get you ready for what's coming up next.
And what is coming up next for us is the final of the Old Dominion Classic. From 120, we have whittled it down to 25. And the grid looks like this. Alt and Clampett, the defending champions, starting just ahead of the points leader, Yarashak. Holmes rolls off fourth. Maverick, Davis, Daniel, Falkingham, your top 6.
Continuing on through road number 4 and number 7 spot on the grid, you'll find Carson Bowers alongside Nick Dyer. Road number 5 will be Adam Garza and Zach Michaelis. And then road number 6, Andy Tropiano and Matthew Zwack.
Wilson Community College's Wyatt Thompson rolls off 13th. 14th on the grid from Purdue University in Indianapolis, it's Jacob Bradley. The Sun Devil, Arizona State's Bradley Erickson, rolls off 15th. 16th is UNOH's Isaac Shelley. Daniel Manny from Ball State, and Olivier Racine from Cégep Beau-Appalaches rolls off from the 18th position.
George Mason University's Zach Sprouse and Aaron Brown are going to make up road number 10. Those are your top 20 starters tonight. Connor Trafari and Brandon Hudson make up an all UNC Charlotte road number 11. Jose Solis Jr., Matthew Morton, they start tonight 23rd and 24th.
Final starter in this field representing King's College and a longtime competitor in this series out of Trucksville, Pennsylvania, is Douglas Newbigging. And so, for one more time in this Old Dominion Classic, we have an opportunity to look at our Logitech G race analysis.
And it's the first time it changes based on what we had seen up to this point. More than double the race distance, 75 laps on the board. 2 sets of tires, pit strategy, tires, not something we've talked about yet tonight. And of course, the driver tournament prize money, $3,000 in scholarship money will go to tonight's race winner. $1,500 for second, $1,000 for third, and then $700, $500, and $300 if you finish in the number 4, 5, or 6 spots. And it seems silly to say when you look at numbers that are nice like that, James, but I feel like for some of the top runners, they're not really too worried about just the scholarship money on the line tonight, because the grand prize, $10,000 hanging in the balance tonight, could be a consequential feature race with just 1 tournament left to go after tonight.
For all the calamity that we saw at Michigan last time out, this is a place that can offer up just as much. And this is the one race in this tournament where you can really make up some ground on Connor Yershak in particular. Yershak has led the points for the vast majority of the season. And that red and yellow Calgary Dynos machine has had a target on its rear for just about all of this campaign. Maybe more so tonight than any other night we've gone racing. They have to close the gap to Yershak if they want a shot at winning that 10 grand. In the meantime, if you want to learn more about the College Series, you can scan the QR code on the lower half of your screen for more information about the College Series. As the lights will go off the pace car and we will go green flag racing with the finals of the Old Dominion Classic next time by.
The big thing I'm looking at here is outside of the gap between first and second, which is a 5-point difference, you're looking at a point per position from there on back. So Clampett second, Yershak third. If Connor Yershak has a good night, it is going to be hard to make up 15 points on him. So not only does Clampett, not only does Falkenham need to have a good night, they need Yershak to not get a top 3 in this one. How does this one play out?
What storylines will we be looking at when we head to Homestead, Miami? Those are about to be set here as Dylan Alt and Logan Clampett will lead us to green, and we are underway with the finals of the Old Dominion Classic from Martinsville. Maybe the slightest bit of wheel spin for Alt, but everybody under control, working their way through 1 and 2, and Alt trying to get to the inside of Logan Clampett to take control of this race early.
The field looked like a spine bending its way through 1 and 2, and not a single person established position on their competitor. They were 2 by 2 throughout. Lap number 1 in favor of the Sacramento State machine at Dylan Alt on the bottom, courtesy of the race win in semifinal 1. He is now clear. Clampett slides in second, Yershak third, Holmes in fourth, and then your first change for position, Daniel Falkenham picks up a spot, and he's now in the top 5.
Daniel Falkenham makes the jump, and Carson Bowers also trying to make a move on Maverick Davis, who is stuck on the high line. Meanwhile, further back, this is right around the 12th position. Garza, Trupiano, Zwack, Michaelis, Wyatt Thompson. This is where it's a little bit more feisty in this pack, as they have strung themselves out single file amongst the top 10. And Zwack and Zach Michaelis from the University of Saskatchewan are your first side-by-side battle in this final so far.
It was Zwack on the inside of the racetrack. We've kind of alluded to it all night, right? The outside, it gets better and better as the night goes on, but you don't have to wait. We saw drivers make the outside work in those shorter 30-lap sprint races earlier on tonight. So is there enough there for Zach Michaelis to get that Saskatchewan Chevrolet by on the outside? The answer is no. Zwack clear on the bottom, and a gutsy move, because Michaelis had Erickson under him, came across the nose, tried to get to inside of Zwack. So Zach Michaelis aggressive here early, and Erickson says, fine, I'll go to your outside.
I think to build to your point about the outside lane being potentially viable, not only do we have some of the most skilled drivers in the College Series in this particular race, but we've got more trucks on track than we've had for any other session in this tournament, which in theory should mean that we've got more rubber to lay down, which also in theory should mean that the outside lane should come in faster in this final than it did at any point that we have seen in this tournament so far, as we have trucks spinning on the back straightaway. Brandon Hudson is sideways on the exit of turn 2, and that brings out our first caution of the evening on lap 8 of 75.
Well, that's the other part of the story, right? Is not only is it longest race, but the first time the Flagman Barney's up there in the flag stand on the afternoon. So previously, if there was trouble, if you were in an incident, it was, too bad, so sad, and we move on. But now those cautions and trouble throughout the field is going to have an impact on what happens with the leaders. This one too early to start talking about strategy and whatnot, but we will see a point where a caution flag likely to mix things up amongst the leaders. Let's see what happened back here in battle for 18th or so.
Brandon Hudson was the one who ended up sideways, but that really starts just ahead. I believe that's Jacob Bradley that Connor Trafari makes contact with, and then there's just a chain reaction further back. We'll go on board with Matthew Morton and see how it played out from his perspective. You'll see the contact with Trafari and Bradley. Bradley starts going sideways, and then they all check up, and Morton just doesn't have enough time to react and picked up some damage, I think, as well to his machine.
And back into that truck, got up in the air with the onboard there with Morton. And if you're at the UNC Charlotte watch party tonight, that's not what you want to see, because two of your trucks, in Trafari and Hudson, going to get damage in that accident on the back straightaway.
All of them also on pit road as well. Pit road, a very, very tough place to work. The live point standings to the right-hand portion of your screen. So for all the racing that these drivers have done in this tournament, Logan Clampett and Daniel Falkingham, if this holds, lots that can change, but it would be those three that would be eligible for the title going into Homestead next week if things just stayed exactly the same. But we know there's about a 0.0000001% chance of that happening, Evan, and I think that's honestly probably being a bit generous.
Yeah, we would have to be a near apocalyptic result for the driver, second, third, fourth, fifth in line, if we were to throw the math out the window here tonight. But we will certainly cut that number down, which I think coming into tonight likely included, I don't know, what would be probably the top 14, top 13 trucks. Realistically, we're going to be looking at 5 or 6 names when tonight is done that have a mathematical shot at winning the championship at Homestead. But then again, you got to talk about a realistic shot, and you saw the live look at the points. Urashak outrunning Clampett, or actually vice versa, but just by 1 spot on track means just 1 point in the standings. Not enough of a dent. Still a long way to go.
Dylan Alt did a nice job on the initial start. How will this restart fare for the Sacramento State driver? Off they go down the front straightaway here at Martinsville. It was a great jump for that front row. They were able to launch off the front of Yettershak and Timmy Holmes, who are still stuck battling with one another as they continue to snake their way around Martinsville. Trucks making contact a little bit further back. Brandon Hudson was sideways, and the yellow flag is out once again as Douglas Newbigging finds himself turned sideways down the back straightaway.
So second time tonight, the trouble has been in turn number 2. This time it's Newbigging around, and we'll wait for the second look, but I will say for the 49er fans, or the Niner fans, to look away, because this is the second incident in where 2 of their trucks are involved in it. We were just talking about how Hudson and Trafari were involved in the accident prior, and they're involved in this one again. And poor Matthew Morton is just trying to get through turn number 2. It's the second time he had a front row seat to an incident.
So you'll see Trafari go high. Wasn't sure if he just missed the corner or was trying to avoid what he thought was going to be a potential issue, and then contact there between Newbigging and Hudson. And once they finally separate, I'd say that Newbigging probably gets the worst of that. Here's a look at Matthew Morton, who's also been involved with both of these incidents. You see the contact there, the big checkup, tries to go down to the inside, then gets on the brakes, waits for the hole to finally open up, and Morton gets through without damage.
Yeah, and tough to tell, but the onboard gave you a good look from behind Newbigging. It looks like he just got a little bit of that red and white curb on the inside. That's what caused that truck to sidestep itself up the hill and then eventually get into the side of Brandon Hudson. Those 2 trucks getting together and resulting with Newbigging getting into the inside retaining wall.
Sebring 12 Hours, Evan Pasoko, special event for the iRacing community, and one that I know you are very excited for.
It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm excited to venture out to whatever corner I'll be working on the cameras for Saturday for our coverage of the top split. I'll be in the booth for that one at some point. Had the opportunity just a couple of weeks ago to go to Sebring and do some things with the iRacing team. It's a beautiful facility. It's one of the top events on the iRacing special events calendar. And again, if you're competing in it and you've got downtime because it's not your stint or it's not your turn of the 4 different time slots we've got working, come hang out, because coverage starts 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time this Saturday right here on the iRacing Esports Network.
That's going to be a lot of fun. One of the biggest events on the calendar, as you said. I would say by participation, not quite up there with Daytona, but probably not far behind the 24 hours at the World Center of Racing. So, worth noting that because we've had 2 yellows in quick succession, that this restart will go single file. So we'll see if things won't change amongst the running order and things won't change amongst this field, as Dylan Alt now will not have to contest Logan Clampett on the outside, and we now are green once again. Good jump there for Clampett. How about Timmy Holmes, though, looking at the inside of Clampett for second?
Yeah, the big difference is with that single file restart opportunity there is it allowed Dylan Alt to really take the most advantage of the control truck position he's had yet tonight. And now look at this three-way battle right around the number 10 spot. Center of it all is Bradley Erickson trying to go in between Zawak and Tripiano. Zawak gets clear on the bottom. They single file things back out. So now forcing drivers to be the aggressor is a little bit of bumper cars. That's Shelley who got shuffled up, and Olivier Racine, the beneficiary.
Racine with a nice job to work his way up into the 13th position. Used the bumper, made it work, made it stick. They're 3 wide behind him. Zach Sprouse trying to get out of the middle of that as soon as he can, as Zach Michaelis has managed to get back to single file racing. This is a good look at our group running around the 14th position. Meanwhile, a little bit of a battle further back as you've got Jose Solis Jr. trying to fight off Wyatt Thompson, Daniel Nanny, Aaron Brown, all of them racing for position deep in this field.
In the bid for side-by-side, Clockett's for about 16th position on back. Sprouse was in that spot, but behind him on 17th, it was Thompson, Solis, and Moore, all doing their best to be aggressive and stay in it. Up inside of the top 5 at a battle for the number 6 spot. Carson Bowers is there. You got Maverick Davis, Nick Dyer, Adam Garza, all single file. Again, that single file restart does a lot of heavy lifting to help these drivers get in line and try to get a bit of a groove here. Now more than 20 laps in of this 75-lap race.
Nanny, I think, may have gotten the fence out of 2 last time by. Not 100% certain, but he's stuck on the outside of Aaron Brown as it stands. As Nanny, with that good run out of turn 4, tried to clear, but didn't have enough momentum. Brown's going to be able to get it right back in the center of the corner. Nanny got loose on corner exit. They make contact down the back straightaway, and somehow there's still no separation between the two of them.
It's almost like they got magnets in the side of those trucks, and they just cannot get away from each other, and that's the effect that short track racing has. Sometimes you just keep seeing a guy, like when you go on vacation and you see that guy on your flight, and then you see him at the hotel and you see him at the beach, and it's like, why do I keep seeing this guy? Short track racing's the same thing. Sometimes you just cannot get away from somebody, and at a place like Martinsville, it can lead to tempers. They navigated that one just fine, but I promise you, if they're stuck battling in the teens for this entire feature, yeah, they'll start to get frustrated.
In keeping track with tonight's hot dog counter, Aaron Brown has consumed 1 of the 2 hot dogs that he prepared in advance of these finals. And the Eastern Shore Community College driver currently running in the 19th position with, 50 laps and 1 hot dog to go, I guess?
Yeah, I guess it's not like hockey rules, right? Like in hockey, you can't touch the Stanley Cup unless you've won it. I think there is no Martinsville superstition about eating a hot dog before you win the race. If there is, he doesn't subscribe to it because he's already one down. I'm curious if we get some yellows, if he will eat that hot dog under the caution flag. That's something that I want to keep an eye on. As this one continues on, you take a peek up to Matthew Zawak. He's up 2 spots and is the last driver inside of the top 10 right now.
Matthew Zawak, winner at Darlington in College Series competition in years past, and one of the drivers who will potentially be wrapping up his College Series career at Homestead Miami next time out. He's a senior industrial and operations engineering major studying at the University of Michigan at Ann Arbor. Certainly a place that you have no qualms with whatsoever in Evan Pasoko.
Go blue.
No shocker there, as you get a good look at the battle between Alt and Clampett. These two have separated from Holmes by about half a second. Yarashak sitting in 4th, though. That, I think, so far as the points are concerned, is the biggest story. That, yes, Logan Clampett has done a little bit of work here, but to really make a dent and make this a battle going into the Sunset Splash at Homestead Miami, Logan Clampett could really use these 5 points that Dylan Alt currently has over.
Yeah, there's 2 storylines to watch with these leaders, right? Dylan Alt, we've never seen him as a feature race winner in this eNASCAR College iRacing Series. Clampett quite the opposite. Clampett's got the second most wins out of anybody all time, and just remember how close these two were last week in one of their heat races to transfer into this one, so no shock that these drivers are running in the first and second spot right now. But Clampett has 3 wins from the spring 23 season. He had 1 win in the 23-24 season, and he had 2 wins in the 24-25 season. This year, Clampett's got none. So I don't think Clampett has ever gone a full college campaign without a trip to victory lane. He seems like tonight might be the night that he can snap that and keep the streak going, because he is all over Dylan Alt.
The only other driver with more wins than Logan Clampett in the history of the College Series. How about the Iowa Hawkeye, former champion of this series and 2-time and defending Coke Series champion when the championship series starts up in May, one Steven Wilson. So for those trying to keep track of College Series trivia, there is your, I guess, trivia nugget of the evening. As Dylan Alt continues to lead this group. I guess we don't have a duck to walk across the screen, and in fairness, it's not really a pond anywhere near Martinsville. This is all hilly, rolling foothills as you start working your way in the Appalachian Mountains, so a lot of mountains, no water around.
Hey, beautiful part of the country. You've got the hill on the backstretch. Fans still park in some of the yards for the local residents just off of the back straight over there. You get the train tracks as well that run through. Again, we mentioned it as one of the only tracks that is still on the NASCAR calendar from that 1947 season. This place has seen some changes, but it still remains Martinsville at heart, and that was a Martinsville at heart move there. Logan Clampett giving the bumper to Dylan Alt, who has so far led all 34 completed laps, but will that continue this time by? It does, at least for one more trip around the paperclip, because that outside's only going to get better and better and better. Clampett can move him up all he wants, but give credit to Dylan Alt. He punches back every time. Here's Timothy Holmes' perspective for the Horry Georgetown Technical College Toyota as he rides in third.
I think this is going to get very interesting because, one, to your point, that outside lane should start coming in right about now. And two, as Alt and Clampett continue to run door to door, it's only going to draw Yarashak and Holmes into this battle even further. So what has been a 2-car fight for the lead now becomes a 4-truck fight for the first position.
And remember the battle we saw for one of the wins in the semifinals is that at a Yarashak, right? Went to the bottom of Falkenham, couldn't get the job done. Final lap decided, all right, I'm going to run you up the hill. Logan Clampett reserves the right. Again, he could end the battle at any point by just moving Dylan Alt out of the way, but that's not what you want to do this early on. But he does have some pressure from behind. You saw Timothy Holmes trying to get to the bottom there, so there's an incentive for Clampett that I need to get around the leader to put a buffer between me and Holmes, because Holmes, Yarashak, Falkenham, I mean, those guys put the pressure on. If you're not moving forward, someone's probably knocking on the door to make you drop back in the running order. And if we drop back a little bit on the scoring pylon on board with Carson Bowers, he's in the number 6 spot. It would seem like Maverick Davis would kindly like to take that away from him.
Maverick Davis, I think, would love that track position and would love the opportunity to go chase after Daniel Falkenham. We've got some stalwarts who have been there, who have been pretty consistent at the front end, but Maverick Davis has had a career tournament, no doubt about it, here at Martinsville. It's been consistently top 5, top 10 speed just about the whole way through tonight's proceedings, and is looking to lock down a place just on the edge of the top 5 if he can work his way around Carson Bowers.
And as the battle for the lead carries on in front of them, Connor Yarashak doesn't want to wait around for them to figure it out to be the next man up. He's down to the inside of Holmes. So side by side for the lead, side by side in a battle for third. Double action inside of your top 4. And you see with the live points, Connor Yarashak, that gap now all of a sudden only an 8-point difference. Why did it take a big swing? It's because Clampett had a nose in front for the lead. You'll see a 5-point swing right there, 8-13. That's the difference between a first-place finish and a second-place finish. It's a 5-point difference between a win and a P2. So not only is it obvious to state that Clampett would love to win the race because it's valuable, but that 5-point difference makes a world of change as you see it flip between 8 and 13.
that would change the perspective of this so much going into Homestead, Miami. It would cut down the breathing room by that much. And these might be obvious statements, but I think if you're Clampett, you've got to find a way to get points, especially because Yarashak was so good early on in this evening. And I really think when you look at the way this battle has shaped up between Yarashak and Logan Clampett, Daytona really stands out as a place where you could have had a lot of different finishes. You could have seen a lot of different people get the job done. Yarashak won Daytona, then won Iowa. That's where he took control of the points lead. Has not looked back since, as there's contact there on the front straightaway. I think it was Bradley Erickson who almost got sent spinning by Andy Trupiano.
Hey, that one no fault of his own. Trupiano had a mistake, and then Dyer was up and in the dirty stuff, and Erickson kind of caught him coming through. But it seems like Bradley Erickson, the ASU driver, somebody else who's been around a lot of fireworks tonight thus far, is he's done a good job of chipping away. Started 15th. He's up into the number 10 spot. But again, we're no longer talking about the benchmark being a top 5 or a top 10. You want to get in on the action. Here's a second look at what happened to him. Again, it's going to be trouble in front of him for Dyer there. And right here, just not quite clear. It's out of shape. It's a good save. And give credit to the Detroit Mercy truck who made the move to the bottom. Again, Trupiano could have made that worse, but kind of bit his tongue and allowed Erickson to get that truck back underneath him.
Honestly, really nice work there from Erickson. But then again, I think that's been the story of Erickson's season. Currently third in points entering this tournament. And also only a freshman, a finance major from Phoenix, Arizona, attending Arizona State University. So as we look towards, I think of next season in particular, if you're looking for people to give Yarashak some form of run, Erickson may be the person that might give him the biggest challenge as they're 3 wide there for the race lead.
It's getting really aggressive up front and even in the midfield, but in the number 1 position, 3 wide for the race lead. Up ahead of him, it's Clampett in the center, but it's going to be Holmes on the bottom. How about a 2-for-1 special for the driver who has just scored in third? New race leader Timothy Holmes gets them both.
Timmy Holmes not afraid to be aggressive and saw the opportunity, and now the yellow flag comes out as Aaron Brown has run into trouble. So how timely a move there from Timmy Holmes to get the lead ahead of Logan Clampett, who showed his displeasure there coming out of turn 4. He was not happy with the way that panned out, but if the inside line is open, if gap exists, then truck will find a way.
And it's a mental game, right? I mean, I mentioned it earlier in the race when they were side by side is, Clampett could decide that the battle's over whenever he wants by moving that truck out of the way. He didn't, right? You can't do it in a split on pit road. Timothy Holmes stays out, but almost every other truck is going to come down.
Timmy Holmes is about to be the biggest fan of every yellow flag that falls upon Martinsville, because the tire difference is now going to be significant. 53 laps here as we get a look at Aaron Brown, and I believe Daniel Nanny were the two that came together on the front straightaway. And it wasn't a lot of contact, but it was enough to send Brown sideways, askew in the middle of the racing groove, and bring out another yellow flag. Our third of the evening as you ride on board with Matthew Morton. Contact there between Nanny and Morton's done a great job here of just finding a way through. For a split second, you were worried that maybe Brown might go all the way down to the inside retaining wall, but Morton yet again for the second time this evening with the opportunity to escape damage.
And I was, talking about other stories because I was so confident that, nobody in their right mind would not come down to the pit lane. Thought it was going to be a predetermination. In the end, he's not the only person who decides to stay out. Aaron Brown is going to do so also. But I get that. We've seen people from back in traffic make that call from the lead. Man, I mean, that's 52 lap difference, and there's no buffer zone. It's going to be Holmes, and it's going to be the hot dog king and Aaron Brown at the number 2 spot. That's it. 2 drivers stay out. There is no buffer. You got Logan Clampett and Bradley Erickson on fresh tires, and they're going to be on a row immediately behind you. Is it too late to reinforce the bumper of that Horry Georgetown machine? Because this might get wild here.
Consequentially and similarly, I almost wonder if maybe it isn't the worst thing in the world that Aaron Brown still has not finished that hot dog dinner, because he's going to have to get up on the wheel to hold on to some track position. It is about to be white knuckle for Holmes and Brown in the front row. We're back to double file racing here. 20 laps to go when they hit the stripe. Holmes and Brown on old tires. Everybody else in this field on some form of 2 or 4. Green flag out once again. Brown did not get the greatest jump. Holmes was able to clear. And now here comes Logan Clampett to the inside and throwing the bumper there as they make contact to Yarashak and Logan Clampett. They might be 4 wide going into 3.
And Bradley Erickson's really impatient because he's stuck behind Brown. He can't get by. Clampett in the center. Here comes Yarashak. Trouble behind. It's all going to get out of control. Brown saves it. Behind them, though, several other drivers can't. And that is the consequence of an insensical pit strategy decision. Unfortunately, it is the midfield who pays the price.
The midfield paid the price. The wild thing is that Aaron Brown ended up in the 8th spot and managed to maintain most of the track position, while Erickson and company ended up sideways, and it was actually even further back. I think the first proper spinner of this may have ended up being Zach Michaelis. Just looking at the way this panned out, they were sideways, but it was Michaelis who got a shunt, and then everybody started spinning around going into turn 1 as they all wadded up on corner entry.
And in the end, Holmes will continue to lead this race. You mentioned he's going to be a fan of the cautions. He's going to need a lot more of that, essentially, to just kind of bridge his way to the end of this race by taking 4 laps out of this thing at a time. Again, Clampett had a fair shot at him, right? Tried to get to the bottom, got a little bit out of shape. He couldn't. The real desperation was up on the outside, and it was because Bradley Erickson was stuck behind Aaron Brown. And when you're up top, you can't just cut under that truck in front of you, because you got the inside lane there, and he was the one who was getting aggressive, hitting the bumper of Brown, and what created that 4 wide moment, and Yarashak just kind of picked up the benefit of all of it by sliding underneath them all.
So there's the 4 wide incident there. You see Erickson in the middle with Aaron Brown, and then Michaelis goes around, and one truck there in the middle was Zach Sprouse, I think, who managed to get into Erickson there, just didn't have the opportunity to check up, and sort of pile drove his way through. Here's an onboard with Daniel Falkenham. This should tell us a ton. Or Nick Dyer,
board with Dyer, yeah, and you see there, you know, there's checking up in front of the field, but nobody had gone around at that point, so you kind of have that moment where you kind of lift off on the accelerator, you go to half throttle, and no one's spun yet, and you know it's the right thing to do to slow down for the accident. But if you just check way up and somebody passes you, right? So I think that could have been avoided from other drivers giving a little bit more, but eventually it just turned into a track blocker.
The important piece, though, for the front of the field is that no longer do you have drivers on old tires blocking the outside and inside lanes. It's just the inside lane, but it's also the race leader. So, and the point gap has extended because Yarashak was able to get around Logan Clampett in the midst of that calamity out of the corner, and so the points have changed ever so slightly.
And you take a look at the point swing, it was going in the favor of Logan Clampett and others, but with Yarashak stepping above them, all of a sudden that gap back to I'd say a stable position. It was 15 coming into tonight. It's at the number 16 spot. And again, the magic number is you need to be in the 30s if you want to have a mathematical shot going into Homestead. So right now that's only the top 4 or 5.
38 points is the number. Daniel Danny in 9th after all that has climbed back within that window. Bradley Erickson in 11th has fallen out to the tune of 3 points. So Erickson needs 3 positions in order to have a shot at being mathematically eligible. As we go back to green flag racing, one truck sideways and up in the fence. It's Aaron Brown again, the yellow flag out once more.
And again, Aaron Brown is, I'll say he's the victim in this, right? Because he gets crossed over big time. I mean, you know, the drivers behind him are the ones that are making these crazy moves on him. But again, when your truck is going to be that slow and that far off pace, you'll see the move here come from Garza. And obviously, if someone's throwing it down into the inside 3 wide, I remember what we saw some Hendrick cars do that to each other once upon a time back in the COT era. Like if you're making a dive like that on a restart into turn number 1, the instigator is the car on the bottom, James. But if you're going to the bottom like that because the guy in front of you has got 52 lap old tires, I find it hard to blame you.
I think you make a fair point. I think the bigger question is, are these drivers going to get a legitimate shot at Timmy Holmes? There were concerns amongst that camp, and I think it certainly crossed our mind that Holmes may end up being in a very, very spooky spot, given that he has not changed tires once in this race and is going up against drivers who have at least 2 tires worth of fresher rubber, namely in Logan Clampett in particular. But with the way these yellow flags have panned out, they've made Timmy Holmes look pretty smart, because all of a sudden what was about a, call it what, 20 or so lap distance that he had to manage, that's been halved, and it's been halved almost entirely under yellow flag conditions.
Yeah, big chunks is the benefit for Timothy Holmes here. But even if we can push this all the way to the edge of regulation, and we start talking about overtime, you still have to get 2 laps in, right? At some point, he's going to have to, at minimum, unless we ride it all the way out of the overtime clock, he's going to have to get 2 complete laps in. And I think with the single file restart procedure, I think 2 laps is a doable number. If we get back to 2x2 at any point for a restart, I don't think 2 laps under green is a doable number for the tire disadvantage that he's got, right? I think he made the decision to come down to the pit lane not with the intent of being one of only 2 drivers out there. So he has to make what he can out of this. I don't think this is how he wanted to do it, but Timothy Holmes trying to make this work with the cards that he dealt himself.
I'm about to say there's no going back now. That's the big point. You try and get any sort of tires at this stage, you're going all the way in the back of the field, and you're losing all that track position. So Timmy Holmes will have to fight everybody off with the old tires from the front of the field as we get set to go racing once more. Green flag is out. Holmes spins the tires a bit. Is that the opportunity for Yarashak? Yes, it is. Yarashak with a send into 1 and 2. Timmy Holmes trapped on the high line. Connor Yarashak, points leader to the race lead inside of 10 laps to go, and the yellow flag is out once again.
Perfect execution for Yarashak. The field's going to fall apart on the exit at turn number 2 again, and that's all it takes when we're talking about top-level racing in the eNASCAR College iRacing Series, is you just can't give anything. And unfortunately there for Holmes, he spun the tires. Yarashak, like a mercenary, dove to the bottom and took it away with extreme proficiency.
Dylan Alt received a black flag for jumping the start and has since pulled that car behind the wall. The yellow flag, I believe, was actually for, I think, Brandon Hudson, who was sideways in 1 and 2 right after that restart. So here is a look indeed at Brandon Hudson, and we'll see what happened towards the back end of this field as they got going, they checked up in front of him, and he just sent it in too deep, and I think locked the brakes up.
And again, it is weird when you're in that single file restart procedure, right? Your braking points aren't different, but you're just used to going in next to somebody. You're maybe used to kind of check it up for the field, right? 2x2 that are not going to get going, and they're going to get on the brakes quicker than single file. So maybe it's just a little bit of disorientation there with that mistake, is just the single file restart's different than what you're used to. And, to his credit, not the first time we've seen somebody have a single truck incident with a spin there that we've seen tonight.
Distraught drivers there and friends of Brandon Hudson at the UNC Charlotte watch party as their driver brings out the other. Connor Trafari, though, with a very bent and broken left front corner, still riding in 12th, representing the UNC Charlotte 49ers very well as they gathered on screen to say hello to everybody watching around the world here on eNASCAR.com/live. But mistakes. All it took was one slip from Timmy Holmes, and Connor Yarashak did not wait. He pounced upon it, and now look at that points gap. 21 points to Logan Clampett, 36 to Falkingham. Everybody else at this stage would be mathematically out of contention. It would be a 3-person battle for the title going into Homestead.
And what a swing, right? When Clampett was leading and Yarashak was third, it was an 8-point gap. You just flip-flop those 2 spots on track. They're only 2 positions apart from each other. It jumps nearly 15-point difference. That's how critical this race win could be if Yarashak can close this down.
Yarashak with 4 laps to go when they hit the stripe. It's going to need to be a massive, massive run from Logan Clampett. He's got to find some track position. Look at Maverick Davis looking to the inside of Matthews Whack as Holmes is going to get sent up the racetrack. Clampett going to work to the bottom. Everybody all over each other down the backstretch.
Yeah, big blocks as well. That was Racine and Naney going at it further back in a battle for 7th and 8th, but Timothy Holmes going to get swallowed up here now. Clampett's through to second. Zwack now slicing to the inside. He's likely trying to take away the number 3 spot, and he's going to get it with a great drive off of 2.
Will Logan Clampett have the time to get back to Connor Yarashak, or will this be yet another tournament win for the University of Calgary driver? Good battles back here with 2 laps to go.
3 wide dive, it's not going to work. Spun into the outside wall and around, still wrecking after the yellow flag is out. More trucks around, but Racine gets the short end of that one, and I don't know if he's trying to find a spot in line or if he's mad at somebody.
Be interesting to see how this pans out. Noting that there are some unhappy people on the radio, so we'll see how this pans out amongst them. I would say that might answer things a little bit. I suspect
that was delivering a message.
Yeah, the replay I think will probably tell us more here, but it would seem that Olivier Racine and Daniel Naney will not be exchanging Christmas cards at the end of the calendar year.
And he pulled up alongside him. He didn't hit him, didn't take him out. I'm fine with that, right? Just wanted to pull up alongside and say, hey, I saw that, and they'll settle it another time. But, didn't do anything drastic or out of pocket, in my opinion, there.
Put it this way. In the words of NASCAR Hall of Famer Kurt Busch, I got your number. I got your number. So, but for the purposes of the front of this field, I don't know if this is outright worst-case scenario for Connor Yarashak, but it certainly isn't the best as we'll look and see what happened between Racine and Naney. And I think the thing that Racine probably doesn't know is that Naney had someone underneath him in the form of George Mason, Zach Sprouse. So they were 3 wide, and I believe Racine thought that they were 2.
Yeah, and obviously if you're 2 wide, Naney's way up the hill, but there was an entire George Mason University Chevrolet Silverado under him, and I think that the cool head for Olivier, relatively speaking, on not retaliating under the yellow, he's going to be happy that all he did was pull alongside him after he sees the look. And I don't even know if it's completely the fault of Sprouse there, because he's not getting a lot of room. The expectation is if you're 3 wide, you better keep those tires on the curb. He was no higher up the track than Garza was, but again, when you're 3 wide, it just looks like the guy on the bottom is the one making the decision there. So I think that was one of the closest to what we'll call a racing incident that we've seen thus far.
I would say there's a lot of truth in that statement. I also think it's going to be interesting to see how these overtimes pan out. There are 3 available to us. A reminder of the overtime rules. If we get the white flag before we get a yellow, we are racing to the checkered, and that is it. If we get a yellow flag before we get the white, then we do it again, and we have 2 opportunities to try and finish this under green after this if we so choose. But for Logan Clampett, the time is now. He has to find a way around Yarashak to make this points gap manageable going into Homestead.
You're going to be looking at either a 10-point gap or a 20-point gap. It's going to depend on which one of these 2 comes out on top.
Where does Clampett fire? How does Yarashak go? Yarashak got a way better jump, a significantly better jump, enough to where Matthews Whack is going to get a shot. And Timmy Holmes is going to clean Logan Clampett out. And there are 5 or 6 trucks that are going to wreck it even more on the back straightaway. But Logan Clampett gets swept up right in the middle of this. I couldn't tell whether or not Timmy Holmes got help from behind. But Holmes starts the chain reaction that sends Clampett in the wall and maybe, just maybe, dashes his hopes of back-to-back titles in the College Series to boot.
Yeah, Clampett is not happy on the driver radio, and a big winner all of that was Daniel Falkingham, right? He comes into tonight as the number 3 driver in the championship, but he was way back in the number 10 spot. He sneaks through that and is certainly not lined up to gain on Yarashak because Yarashak's the leader, but certainly doing damage limitations. And for Logan Clampett, the question is, where is he going to be scored, right? The caution comes out quick in that accident, and then more trucks keep wrecking. You'll see it here. Clampett had a bad start, and there's the punt that has the accordion effect to take everybody else out. It's Holmes who's sideways, I mean, it's Davis who gets turned around, but the driver at the center of all of that was Daniel Naney on the bottom, who put it 3 wide, and that gap was not there. I mean, he was on the curb and absolutely sent Holmes.
Yeah, Daniel Naney was the cue ball that sent about 4 trucks ahead of him around and sideways and completely shook up the point situation at the front of this. And Naney eventually did get turned in that. Maverick Davis got caught up in this. Here's the look from Timmy Holmes, and he's got absolutely no idea that he's about to get hit in the rear. No chance to save it there.
Yeah, I mean, he's in line with Davis in front of him, and again, I guess you have to know that someone's going to make a crazy move, right? It's the end of the race, but that onboard perspective, I think, tells the best story for Holmes, right? You can watch it from above. You can see that guy trying to, show the nose and kind of initiate, hey, I'm going to make a move, but Holmes was lower on the turn 1 entry than the truck in front of him was, right? I mean, there's nothing Holmes can do from a defensive or from a self-preservation perspective in that scenario.
If there's one person who didn't mind how that panned out, it was Olivier Racine, who, remember, in the incident before, got caught up, made contact with Naney. At that point, there was a car, or a truck rather, underneath Naney in the form of Zach Sprouse. This time around, a little bit different, and Racine hopped on the radio and was very quick to point out, karma, buddy. So, certainly no complaints from Racine that Naney got swept up in that and is currently scored in 23rd. But now, what can Falkingham do with Clampett now scored in 10th and a little bit buried in traffic here? And can Matthews Whack avoid the same fate in the big blue machine representing the Michigan Wolverines? A better restart there for Matthews Whack as they head down to 1.
So Zwack on the outside, going to be in a battle for the second spot. Dehee and Morton hold each other up, and does it allow Urashak to get a jailbreak on the outside? No, Zwack clear for second, setting his sights on the leader coming to the white flag.
Cars going sideways further back in the corner. Is that going to be a yellow before we hit the stripe? No, it won't. Matthews Whack is going to have an opportunity going into turn 3 to try and wrest the win away from Connor Urashak. Does he use the bumper or does he run it clean? They'll go into 3 for the final time. Zwack with the send, Zwack with the shove, big time braking in the center of the corner from Connor Urashak, who will hit the stripe and make it 3 tournaments out of 5 in this College Series season. Connor Urashak claims the Old Dominion Classic at Martinsville.
Dominant stuff on the year. Tonight he had to work for it, only led 19. It took a little bit of strategy and restart chaos in the end. Connor Urashak, only the 4th driver in College Series history to get 3 race wins in a single season.
And the first driver in College Series history to win 3 tournaments in a single season, setting the bar for the University of Calgary Dinos and for everybody else in the College Series. Tonight's winning moment is brought to you by Logitech G, the official wheel and pedals of the eNASCAR College iRacing Series. As Urashak picks up the win again, he'll get the scholarship money, but more importantly, he's going to get a pretty sizable points lead going into Homestead, Miami, into the Sunset Splash. And he made the job of collecting the big $10,000 check that goes to the series champion at the end of the season that much easier. Matthews Whack and Matthew Morton representing Michigan and Ohio State. 2 schools that certainly would not love to be mentioned next to each other if it were up to their decision. But for our purposes, they're here. They're 2nd and 3rd. Daniel Falkingham was 4th for the University of Maine at Machias. Carson Bowers, nice job to get Purdue in top 5. Bradley Erickson was 6th for Arizona State. Eastern Shore Community College's Aaron Brown was 7th. Connor Trafari with one of the best finishes for UNC Charlotte of the season. He ends up 8th. Olivier Racine ends up with a top 10 in his first tournament for Cégep Beauce-Appalaches. And then Douglas Newbiging from King's College out of Pennsylvania rounded out the top 10.
Did it on through. Notable result for Logan Clampett. At one point, looking like a single-digit gap going into the final tournament at Homestead. Instead, it's an 11th place and an uphill battle as he's ahead of the 9er entry of Brandon Hudson. It's the Yukon Husky in the number 13 spot of Jose Solis Jr. Talked a lot tonight about both Timothy Holmes and Zach Sprouse. Both of them stuck in a lot of the fireworks in the number 14 and 15.
Daniel Naney was part of a lot of those incidents. Slade ends up 21st at the end of this. Jacob Bradley was 22nd. Adam Garza, Dylan Alt, and Isaac Shelley, 23rd, 24th, and 25th in this Old Dominion Classic finale. As that concludes the 5th tournament of the year. One more to go at the end of this, but Connor Yarashak is going to have a healthy points lead into this, and it is time to chat with the winner of a College Series tournament for the third time this season. It is the Dino from the University of Calgary, Connor Yarashak, who is with Evan Pizzoco.
Yeah, tonight does not come in dominant or easy fashion, but it was another strong result, and he took advantage of what the race gave him. We're down in victory lane with Connor Yarashak. And Connor, first off, congratulations. You heard the stat there from James, a 3 times race winner. We've only ever seen that 3 other times in College Series history, but no one has ever done it under this format.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really happy with how tonight went. The race was actually quite a bit better than I thought it was. We had a nice little run there and you started moving up the track, but it was just so hard to pass. Like, I obviously ran that lane up the track last week and people kind of started figuring it out, and the bottom just dies so bad that you can't do anything to make a pass. So I was stuck there, and then just with some people staying out on old tires, I was able to cycle my way to the lead and then just hold on through the melee at the end.
Obviously, it seemed like a universal decision for everybody to come down to the pit lane at the end of this race, except for the 2 trucks on the front row. We go through a couple of single file restarts. Was there any point where you thought that those trucks up there were going to be able to hang on?
I thought Holmes had a chance after he survived the first couple, but I knew I just needed to have a good restart. And like the first couple, the race didn't, like, I never even got to exit turn 2 before the yellow came out. So that time it just went that little bit longer that I was able to get control of the race. And then once I got control, I felt like it was going to be hard to take it away without just wrecking it.
What you do is you increase the points advantage with 1 tournament week left. It'll come next month at the Homestead Miami Speedway. What's your outlook for that one as you guys look to lock up this title?
Yeah, I'm excited. Obviously, I don't know what my points are looking at. I should be looking pretty good if I just make the finale. But Homestead's going to be a great race. That track is going to race really nice with the new truck and aero, and normally there you don't see many yellows and you get nice long green flag runs. So I'm looking forward to it. It should be a fun one.
Well, we're looking forward to how this one wraps up. Connor, we appreciate the time, and congratulations on the win.
Thanks.
That's a word with your race winner tonight. We'll continue on down the line to Matthew Zawak, who comes home in the number 2 position. And Matthew, it's a good result for you guys. So obviously we knew coming into this one, you guys had to have a good one to try to get up and into the top 6 in points, start talking about some championship money on the line next week. How would you assess tonight? Was P2 a good result considering where you guys started?
Yeah, it was a great result considering where we were. I've been on the grind ever since Daytona. And I mean, after putting it on the having the best queue time in any of the heats last week to missing turn 3 by 3 miles, is pretty good to be able to get the second. A little luck on our side with that first big wreck, but yeah, I was just able to play the lanes right. Had some really good driving to get to second as it is from like 5th, and you'll take that all day here. I mean, after looking in my mirror at the end of that, you can't be too mad with second.
I mean, it's been a long year, right? Tournament number 5 now goes in the rearview mirror with this new tournament format that you guys have been racing with since we started this thing back in September. How would you assess just kind of how you guys have been able to manage it, to put yourself, in a spot to fight for some prize money on the line? It certainly seems like the testament and the fortitude is certainly challenged here because these are some long weeks to be able to fight all the way through to get to these features.
Yeah, I mean, the testament, I think, is just you can't just overreact. I mean, you have to stay calm. It's once you get too worried or you start cooking your tires, you start putting yourself back in fields, it snowballs and it gets worse and worse. You have to try and stay as calm as you can, stay on top of everything. Qualifying is crucial, obviously, in a shorter race format. Like in a race like this, you have to, queuing well makes your life so much easier. And that's something that I think everyone's put more of an emphasis on. And it was really big here, but just trying to stay calm. Again, like the more you overreact, it just snowballs and it gets worse. And you find yourself in an LCQ and something bad can happen to you and then you don't even make the next week. So, yeah.
Well, top 3 in the points when it's said and done, walk away with prize money. You guys will have an opportunity at finishing that high when you guys head to Homestead. Congrats on the good result here.
Thank you very much.
And as your runner-up tonight, we'll continue for the final step on the podium. Matthew Morton walks away with the number 3 spot. And kind of quietly, through all the chaos, Matthew, you guys drive from a 24th to 3rd. I imagine you saw almost everything over the course of this one.
Yeah, I mean, we saw pretty much everything and then some. The whole night was crazy to begin with. I mean, I spun in qualifying, started dead last out of everybody, and I was scratching and clawing in the LCQ to even make it, and just started last in the race. Got some damage early in the race, but it's just a testament to how Martinsville can be, especially late in the races. We just got in a great position, got lucky, and were able to make it through some wrecks there at the end and got P3. So.
It was not the most direct route. It was the scenic route, but you guys get a good result nonetheless, Matthew. Congratulations in this one, and we'll hope to catch you next month.
Thank you, guys. Have a good night.
So Matthew Morton, and a big thanks to all 3 of our top finishers, all chasing down race winner and still championship leader, Connor Urashak.
And we said at the beginning of this broadcast, the magic number to make it and be mathematically eligible to challenge for the College Series championship at Homestead was 38. Maybe the bummer for Matthew Morton is that he's missed that cut by 1 point, and it is Yarashak, Falkingham, and Clampett that will arrive in South Florida with an opportunity to win the title, but Yarashak has a sizable lead into his points, I believe mathematically. If he can get into the final at Homestead, that will all but just about wrap up the title if he can take the green flag there. It'll be close. Be very, very close. So, one more time we go forth in the College Series in this season, and we turn our attention to a championship track with quite the pedigree. Homestead Miami Speedway is home to the final tournament of the season for the 2025-26 eNASCAR College iRacing Series. Time Attack will open up March 31st, 1 week from Tuesday, and then April 9th it will close. Week 1 will go after it April 15th, 7 p.m. Eastern, eNASCAR.com/live, and then we will close out everything 1 week later, April 22nd, 7 p.m. Eastern, the time, the place you need to be to find out how the College Series season concludes. And then Evan, he'll be back on it for the next round of eNASCAR Coca-Cola qualifying iRacing Series.
It is big-time sim racing season. $25,000 on the line for the College Series next time out. And, of course, for the hopefuls who hope to compete in the Coca-Cola iRacing Championship Series, if you want to get to the road to $500,000, you got to get through qualifying. And the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series continues with a trip to the track Too Tough to Tame. You are not going to want to miss that one next Tuesday night as we continue in those O'Reilly cars.
And that broadcast you will also see on eNASCAR.com/live. A tremendous thank you to so many people here from both eNASCAR and iRacing who made it possible, for all of our partners at eNASCAR, the Play vs. College League, for our director Drew Adamson and the entire iRacing production team, both in Massachusetts and around the world, and for my colleague in the booth, Evan Pashoko. I am James Pike. Thank you so much for watching iRacing's coverage of the Old Dominion Classic for the eNASCAR College iRacing Series powered by Play vs. College League. Congratulations to the University of Calgary's Connor Urashak, who is a 3-time winner of tournaments here in the College Series campaign, and we will see you in April for the last tournament of the season, the Sunset Splash from Homestead Miami Speedway.